Second.
Motion from Member Nolberg, a second from Member Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries 5-0. Next, I would like to announce that tonight's meeting is being digitally recorded, as always. And that the Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by Member Lynn. Mike?
Please stand, place a hand over your heart, ready to begin.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mike. The next item on our agenda is announcement of actions taken in closed session. We have no announcements to make. We took no action. And with that, we're going to move on to special recognition. We have two different groups tonight. First is the Where Everybody Belongs group, the web group from Oak Avenue that will be led by Randy Marsh and Virginia Andrews.
Good evening, how are you? Good. Thank you for having us. My name is Randy Marsh. I am one of the teachers of Oak Avenue, and I'm one of the web advisors. This is Ms. Virginia Andrews. She's one of our counselors. She's also one of the web advisors. Then we have Isabel Shue, Elizabeth Hung, Anna Chen, and Lauren Yoder with us, who are some of our 8th grade web leaders. So we're going to explain to you tonight a little information what the web program is and what it does. So
WEB stands for Where Everyone Belongs. It's a middle-level orientation and transition model. It was designed by the Boomerang Project. It was designed by the Boomerang Project, and it's a nationally used model. It's found at about 2,000 middle schools around the United States. WEB uses trained peer mentors to increase student achievement and reduce bullying. That's our ultimate goal within the program. It was implemented at Oak about 16 years ago, although it's been a program nationally for much longer than that. Every year we recruit 7th graders in the spring towards the end of their school year. We find about 80 to 90 web leaders, so we're trying to get a big base of students. We're going to pair each web leader with a partner, and that partner those two people get about 10 incoming 7th graders. This year we did a new application program, which was really exciting. We got a pretty diverse group of web leaders that represented all of our students across campus. Ultimately, our goal is to make sure that every single 7th grader looks at all of the web leaders and sees at least one person who looks like them or who they can connect with. So this year we had web leaders who are represented by ASB, who are also involved in different clubs and sports on campus. We have web leaders who are in our ELD program or who are served by an IEP. So it was a pretty remarkable group of web leaders we have this year. And the training is pretty intense. All of our web leaders participate in a 2-day orientation. They give up time in their summer to learn how to be web leaders. Mr. Marsh and I come in August and teach them how to be web leaders. We both do a lot of activities to build community within the web leader group, but also teach them all the activities that they're going to need to run with their 7th graders.
So what we actually do on the first day of school, on what we call our web day, is the 7th graders all show up in school. They go to their first period class where they have attendance taken. They're given a sticker with their name on it and a number of a group they will be in later. And then they go down to the gymnasium where I run an assembly for the entire 7th grade class. And what the activities are designed to do is to slowly bring them into Oak, to make them feel comfortable. The activities I do, they start really simple. We'll start with just a singing of My Bonnie Lads Over Yours, where you stand up, sit down on the letter B. I'm going to play a game called That's Me, where I'll say, if you are a boy, they go That's Me or whatever. Again, the activities are designed to make them more comfortable, so they can see that they are not necessarily alone. There are people who are like them, have similar interests and things like that. So I put them through some activities while they're sitting in the bleachers, and I believe that is what you actually walked in and saw us doing at that time. Then I eventually get them onto the floor in several different lines, and they have some challenges to take. They decide what is their favorite day of the week, Friday or Saturday. They indicate that with either 5 fingers or 6 fingers. Then they have to arrange themselves without talking and things. And I start talking about what happens at Oak. Like if you make good choices, you're going to get good grades, and how it's okay to not be with your friends all the time. We value them as who they are. We want them to be unique, to express their own individual personalities and how we value those things. I started laying the foundation for the rules and stuff we have developed, and the other things we value, like our character traits that are on the side of our library, about honesty and integrity and things like that. Then we put them in groups on the gym floor itself, and there's other little activities that start out nice and easy, and then move up in the risk factor. They have little challenges, like one of them have to jump around their circles, singing a song or something, or they have to design an animal or something on the floor with all people in the web group. Again, just to get them used to being there, get to know each other. And then we turn it over to our 8th grade web leaders, who we take them and they go to different classrooms on campus or other places. And the 8th grade web leaders take them through other activities. Again, it's designed to get them familiar with each other. They do the thing where they learn each other's names. Then they do other activities where they have challenges that link arms. They have a balloon, they keep a balloon up in the air, and they have to figure out how to keep it in the air for so long and say everybody's name before they stick around and things like that. To build up their confidence and again get to know each other. Then the heart of what we do on Web Day is they start teaching them strategies called Strategies for Success. They play a game called One Left, where they have 15 straws, and the goal is to be the person who doesn't take the last one. And they go through and explain to them how you notice I always win, and then they start talking about strategies, how you can be successful in school, about making sure you take your notes, you talk to your teachers, you do your homework, and those types of things to get them to understand this is kind of our expectations of what we want. But also explain to them that where you can go for help. If you are struggling, we have counselors that you can go to, or your teachers, or your friends. They're not there just to give you homework. They really care about what's going on with you. And if you can start the slideshow, if you would, for me, please. When that is over at the end of the day, we have them take them on a tour of our campus. And we have themes and stuff that you see. The pictures you're going to see on this is just some of the things you see. This is me talking to our web leaders before all the 7th graders get there. But when they take them on a tour of the campus, we encourage them to come up with a theme for their group. And you'll see in some of the pictures some of the costumes they come up with. They get extremely creative for their group. But they show them where... Okay, they show them like where the library is and the basic process of checking out a book, or they show them where their different classrooms might be for the team they're on. Where do you go to PE, and how do you get your PE clothes and things like that. And the last thing we do is we go back to the gym. There's a final assembly we do that Ms. Andrews runs that part of, where it's talking about pulling people up or pulling people down. It's easier to pull someone down than it is to lift them up. We try to stress to them that we really want them to lift people up. But Web's not over once Web Day is over. We do other activities with them throughout the year. We have a group of 8th grade web leaders that will become part of our web drama. And what they do is they get together and they come up with skits. They go into the 7th grade classrooms and they teach about our character values, like honesty, integrity, perseverance. They actually come up with their own little skits and they go and they present those to the kids in the classes. We do other activities throughout the year. We have a web lunch where the 7th graders all will meet with their web leaders for lunch. And we come around and talk to them, and they're talking to the 7th graders about how is your year going? Are you struggling with anything? Do you have any questions? We want them to know that they're not just on our campus, Web Day's over, and we've forgotten about you, that we're there for the entire year to support them, to ensure that they are successful. We constantly try to check in on them to see if any of them are struggling. It has had some success. It does cut down on some of the bullying and other activities we find on our campus. We've noticed that over the years we've been running this program. I've been involved with Web for all my 14 years teaching it out. It's a wonderful program. It does have an impact on the way our students see our campus, especially on our 8th graders that become our web leaders. Again, we entrust a lot of what happens in web to our kids. Again, like Sandy said, this year we went where they applied to be a part of web. And we go through, we don't look for all the straight A students, we don't look for all the kids that are always going to be in all the activities, the best athletes. We want a broad spectrum of the kids we have on our campus. So we have kids that may have gotten 3 or 4 Fs in their 7th grade year in some of their classes. But they applied for web, they went through the process, the interview, and we thought they would make a good web leader. And honestly, they have stepped up and have really shown us that they really care. The kids have applied it. We've had web leaders in the past who have broken up fights or refused to do things or let us know about some incidents on campus that could have been a problem because of what they learned in web. So that's basically what the web program is, and it's designed for where everybody belongs, and we truly want everybody to belong. But I could talk about it forever, and I could, because I love the program. But I think it'd have a more important impact on you if you hear from our web leaders themselves. So they're going to tell you a little bit about their experience as a 7th grader and as an 8th grade web leader. So, girls, it's all you.
Hi, my name is Isabel Shi. I'm a current a web leader at Oak. So I remember on the first day of 7th grade, everything was really intimidating. New faces, new environment, new school. It can be scary. You can feel the nerves and the anxiety. So as a web leader, I wanted to help the 7th graders feel more comfortable as they loosened up throughout the day doing their activities. I knew it would help me also, not only with the 7th graders, but also with me, because I got to connect with the 7th graders, knowing more about them than I would have if I weren't in web. And I also got to work with my partner, whom I didn't really know anything about. I remember the 7th graders at the beginning, they're a little bit shy because it is the first day of school. But then we started doing activities, they got to know each other, and then they seemed more engaging and enthusiastic about all the activities that we did. So being a web leader is pretty important to me, and seeing as how it helps the school, I think that's pretty cool.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Hum, and yeah, as we all know, I'm an 8th grader and I'm part of the web program. Last year, being the shy, timid 7th grader I had no idea where to go or what to expect because, after all, I was in a new school, a new environment. But I'm really glad that I met 2 web leaders that were super friendly and enthusiastic about the school, and like they showed school spirit and they were like all positive when I was like afraid and shy. At the end of the 7th grade year, I was offered an opportunity to run to be a web leader, and of course I took it. I wanted to be just like my web leaders. I knew there were going to be hardships along the way, but I was willing to work hard for it because I wanted to give back and I wanted to return the favor to the incoming 7th graders as well. Furthermore, the joy of seeing my weblings develop from the scaredy cats they were to the brave royals they are now really gives me a sense of accomplishment. Lastly, I would like to say thank you to our web advisors, Mr. Marsh and Ms. Andrews, because all this wouldn't have been possible without them.
Hi, my name is Lauren Yoder, and I'm one of the lucky web leaders for this school year at Oak Avenue. Let's take a flashback to the start of my 7th grade year. I walked through the front gates, and all that was running through my head was, wow, this place is huge. It's going to be hard running around here every day. I found my friends, and all of us were really excited for the new year, even though we had no idea where any of our classes were or what our 6 different teachers were going to be like. As the morning went on, right before the first bell, I remember something hit me. What if I was going to explode from nervousness? Luckily, this middle school had something very special to not turn this campus into a dark abyss with no exit. Web leaders! I met my 2 leaders, and on the first day of school, they guided me around campus and showed our web group all the neat hangout spots. They talked about some cool things that we would do during the year, while all of us dressed in silly costumes that they had made for us to wear while we toured the campus. But most importantly for me, they broke down exactly how Oak's block schedule worked, which I'll admit really freaked me out. The year flew by, and suddenly it was our turn for us 7th graders to turn in our web applications. I got in, and I just couldn't wait to help the new 7th graders feel welcomed and excited for the new year. Going through the training to be a web leader, suddenly I'm making the costumes for my group, along with teaching everything there is to know about Oak, made me feel like I made full circle around campus. And I'm proud to say that I made a difference in the first day of school for my amazing 7th graders, and that it's an honor to be a web leader this year. Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. I am Anna. Good evening. And first of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Andrews and Mr. Marsh for giving me this opportunity today to talk about web and my experience with it. So web has really helped me as a 7th and 8th grader because as a 7th grader, it's kind of freaky going into middle school because everything's different and the campus is huge and you don't even know where like the office is or like the cafeteria. So it's really scary, and I think I lost a few brain cells just by going into the gymnasium on the first day. But thankfully, my web leaders really helped me a lot because they were so kind, they were so enthusiastic, and they showed me where everything was. So at the end of the day, I knew I could always ask them any question I had, and I never felt really lost anymore, which is kind of why I wanted to become a web leader, because I wanted to bring that same comfort and assurance to a new group of 7th graders. So when I brought my group in, it was really amazing seeing their faces change from nervousness to being really happy and having a lot of fun. And in the end, they're laughing with you and I'm laughing with them, and everyone's having a blast. So to conclude, web is a really great program. I really had a fun, memorable, educational learning experience with web, and I'm sure all of you guys would feel the same way, right? Thank you.
So. last thing I want to leave you with, one of the things that I love about this program the most is I get the pleasure of working with people like this and students like this. It truly shows what kind of kids we have on our campuses in Temple City. Again, we entrust them to do a lot of things, so the program's really in their hands for a large part of it. They have a bigger impact on the incoming 7th graders on the first day of school than any teacher on the campus because they're with them longer. They're the first impression the 7th graders have. And we can, without a doubt, trust them to make a good impression and do things, so it's a pleasure to work with kids like that. And we thank you for letting us come and talk about our program. Is there any questions you might have, and we might be able to answer for you?
I guess not, but thank you very much. Thank both to the two of you for leading this effort and for the students that are here tonight to tell us about the experience they've had, and really appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Hang on, we have something for you.
Girls, hang on. Thank you. Thank you.
You have to take a picture for Jerry.
Sit down. You have to stand there next to the front of the light. Oh, goodness, it's right in here.
Is it reflection better?
It's just a
Smile.
You're not.
You get my good side, Jerry. Oh, we got mom pictures now. All right, thank you again.
All right. Moving along, next special recognition tonight is the Tcusd Campus Service Dog, and I guess Richard Bowman, you're
I'm here.
somewhere. Thank you. You're going to kick us off for us?
Savai, you're up. Now that's leadership. What a leadership model.
Thank you very much for having us here tonight. I couldn't think of a better segue to follow where everyone belongs, including Port Lake and everyone's. And this is Cabby. She is our resident therapy dog. She is my dog, but she's everyone's therapy dog at school. And we have Lexi also, who is pictured out there. She's not here tonight. She's a service dog for Susan, and Susan's recovering from some medical issues right now. But Cabby and Lexi are a product of hundreds of hours of training and cooperation, and the students here have been a part of it, and they are the strength of the program. It's not the dogs, it's the students who are involved, and their training, and they dedicate their lunchtime, their after-school time, their breaks, and they're involved. And so they bond with the animals, and they take command of the animals, and in the process they learn a lot of responsibility, which we will cover as well. So, why do we need dogs on campus? Well, as Webb mentioned, there are a lot of stressors on campus. From the moment that you step on to the time that you leave the classrooms, there are demands on your schedule, on your time, on your academics. It could be home issues, it could be peer issues, it could be a number of things. And when you look at the picture in the middle, it kind of makes sense to have dogs on campus. And this is Suraj. He's a regular in my lunchroom. And he hangs out just because I don't have him as a student, I don't have him in any capacity, but he's in there just de-stressing from the day. And dogs at Temple City isn't a new thing. In fact, dogs in society isn't a new thing. It goes back to about the 9th century, where they found human skeletons buried along with dogs. And I'll skip the timeline because I know my time is brief. But in 1980, it's kind of important, Delta Society formed, and they are advocates for the human-animal bond. And Delta Society will later become known as Pet Partners, who we work with, and they advocate for the human-animal bond along with therapy, and not just dogs, but other animals as well. And at Temple City, we have, in 2014, we ended a guide dog training program with Tcusd. When she retired, that program went with her. And she trained guide dogs to be of service to people who might need guide dogs. And in the past, we have 2 students who use guide dogs on our campus daily, and they went everywhere. And we started our therapy dog program in 2016, and it's been 3 years now. And every once in a while, Spartacus, our therapy dog, comes and wanders campus, and the kids are in love and are terrified at the same time. But with Abby and Lexi, they get greeted with smiles, and I wish you could have seen the room when they entered. Faces just light up, and I kind of lose my name. I become known as Hey Cabby. So, and Layla's.
But we love you anyway.
And so there are lots of concerns when we started, and I started this as a pilot program, and at first people thought we're just bringing dogs to school because it's cool, but there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot that students benefit from, and people worry that it's just a bring your dog to school day and it will be just a benefit to me. Tabby's had a long day. She started her day at 4 this morning, so and she's doing really good right now. But all these issues come up, mainly the liability piece, which I'm sure being in the school district and dealing with students is a huge issue. And we did our research, we train our dogs, we screen our dogs for temperament and for aptitude and for skills. And again, before they even step onto the campus, they've had training and they've been assessed. That's like the liability issue, we kind of started, and we don't allow dad pets in there, and that's why he's not in our program. But there are other issues such as the health issues, and we do everything we possibly can. We screen our students, we screen our classrooms, and we make every possible accommodation to scare the allergies away from people who are affected. They're restricted to certain areas of the campus, and so to limit those allergy issues. And as far as the costs are concerned, the students pay absolutely nothing, and that was one of the goals. We want the students to benefit without having to pay to participate. And so far, we've been lucky enough to receive some grants. In the very first year, we asked for some teacher donations, and it was overwhelming. And the cost for students to participate really is nothing, but we also get the students to be certified and trained handlers. Sam was one of our very first students. Her first year was very stressful because the puppies were new, and they went through that learning process, and it was stress-free for everyone except for us. And Sam, through the course of 1 year, spent, I don't know how many days after school, but it seems like every day, and hundreds of hours of volunteer time. And we eventually passed the test, and Sam is a certified or registered handler, which means she can take Tabby into hospitals, into nursing homes, into any place that are welcoming of therapy dogs. And we do it with no problem at all. And we're in the process of doing that with our other handlers this year. And so every 2 years they get recertified, retested, reevaluated. So it's not a one-time and then you're done. We want to make sure the temperament is the same. We want to make sure that the dogs are stable so that we can be stable. Other things, lack of understanding and supervision, and the dogs are never left alone. They're always on leash with one of us or one of the teachers that we have trained, and we look for experienced handlers as well. So no dog is ever left alone unsupervised. And the impact on our facility is minimal. I've talked to every teacher who has them in their classroom, our facilities, and it's negligible. It's actually less than some students. And the health and the maintenance of our dogs, we keep up to that. They're all vaccinated, they're all kept super clean and well maintained. And if there is ever an issue, they would stay home and not come and endanger anyone, including themselves. And so, our objective is to have that happen, where we could be comfortable and where we could be stress-free and a place where it's welcoming. It's the same reason people buy animals for their houses, to make it a home. It's not just a place of work, it's not just a place of learning, but it should be comfortable and it should be anxiety-free. And that's the reason we have the dogs on campus, to alleviate that a little bit. And I don't know how many times students come up and just smile, I don't even know them, and we get bonded, we say hi, and we form a teacher-student relationship or dog-student relationship in most cases, and that's fine with me. And so our dogs are tested for temperament, and this Saturday, I'm actually going to take a test to be an evaluator for therapy dogs. And so we could bring the program full circle, where we can have student trainers, student testers, evaluators, and we can have a technical program. And right now, we've been limited in terms of our scope, and I hope to broaden that. And so if that happens, we would select the dogs in the springtime. In the summertime, we would do our orientations and our training and our bonding with our students and animals. In the fall, we would slowly introduce them onto the campus and train them after school lunches and breaks. And in the wintertime, continue that, integrate them more fully into the classrooms, and then have them tested in the spring, getting ready for the next year. And so it's a process where we don't just take a dog and we push them into the classrooms. We're very careful with it, and it's research, and it's backed with science in our studies, and I'll show that on the last slide as well. And so how it impacts our school. For these students, it directly impacts their ability to work with others. It creates bonds. They've told me that strangers would come up to them, or strange students that they don't know, and sometimes really strange students come up to them. And they immediately interact. Sometimes these students would not fit in anywhere, but they would approach and just become very friendly, both with the trainer and with us. And so that's an avenue for the extension of what they're learning at WEB, or with the WEB program. We link that one. And so I heard a quote, and forgive me if I don't say it correctly, but with a dog, you could be alone and not alone at the same time. And that's kind of our campus. You could be off doing your own thing, but we're still involved in a direct way and in a non-aggressive way. And indirectly, like I said, for us, it's sometimes very stressful, and when we're a dog, trying to get them to be good after not sleeping all day, it reduces the stress for everybody else, except for us. And Jasmine also shared with me a story that in her French class, the kids who don't normally speak, when they have Tabby in there, they speak more. And that's because the anxiety issues go away. Instead of speaking with a person, they're speaking with Tabby, and it just comes out more naturally. And so there are programs that I want to integrate into doing that also. And we want sophomores, we want the freshmen to just adjust and get a handle on things before they dive really deep into the curriculum. So we're looking for sophomores, and we're holding interviews next week for more prospective handlers. And for every one of them up here, there are a ton more who want to be involved. And right now, we're not able to provide that. And for every teacher who has them in their classroom, there are a ton more who want Tabby and Lexi in their classrooms. And we don't have that. And so there's a need for it for sure, not just for our health, but for our work. And so some of the programs, AA just simply means assisted, animal assisted. And there are some activities where it's casual. They do meet and greets on campus, in the hallways during lunchtime. And that particular picture was taken a couple days ago. That's Cody. He's one of our students who's going through a pretty rough time right now. And the highlight of his day was when Tabby visited his room, and he just brightened up and did all of his work and was really focused. And this is the magic. It's like having Santa come every day into our classroom, except Santa's a lot furrier and will probably eat all your food. We also have programs, like I mentioned with Jasmine's class, in the foreign languages. Students are more open. Students are more excited. And it's not just the foreign language classes, it's the SPED classes, it's the ELD classes, and it's also every classroom. Students they come in smiling, which is sometimes rare, but when they see Tabby, it's like, oh, that's all right, I have a test. That's fine. There's also the therapy component, which is what she is trained to do. And this is not just therapy where you can feel good, but it's therapy and preventive therapy as well, where students might be going through a very rough time, whether it is a personal issue or a crisis at home. or heaven forbid, an emergency crisis that we might have to respond to. We have some avenues to address those issues as well. So Cabby's really versatile. Aside from being just cute and friendly, she is also very, very productive in her own special way. And then there's the intervention, and that's just a costume of Cabby, and that goes with our workplace well-being. And she's kind of integrated into our school culture as well. And she's a part of our yearbook. There are numerous newspaper magazines or newspaper Rampage articles about her. In fact, our Rampage editor stopped her students from writing so many articles about Cabby. Every article would have been about Cabby, and so they put a limit on how many articles they could be on Cabby and Lexi. But it's really a positive atmosphere when Cabby's around. Not me, but Cabby.
True.
But we also have a lot of support. These two letters one is from our counseling staff at the high school. And they really want Cabby in their office. And they cited an increase in anxiety, an increase in stress. And I think the percentage is about 10% of our students are either self-reporting or have anxiety issues that are documented. And having them with intervention and having them used for therapy, I think that's a tremendous resource and a place for wellness. The second letter is from our school psychologist at Longden, which we work with, and we try to visit Longden quarterly with the SPEC classes as well. And she mentions that upon seeing the therapy animals, the students' reactions change immediately and instantaneously. And these are students who have trouble focusing, these are students that follow who have difficulty following direction, but we've never seen that when we visit because it's like that. And so it does work wonders, and they want us back every single day. We just can't. And here's some more testimonials. These are unsolicited testimonials. And a couple of weeks ago, we had a program on campus where we were spreading positivity, and these signs just popped up everywhere. And I didn't ask for them. I didn't know it was going up, but these are all signs that we saw around our campus. So they're integrated. And these are student artwork that was unsolicited. And one is a former student who did a watercolor, and it's behind a plastic sheet. She's protecting it. Another one is a drawing, and again, these are some unsolicited. They just came up and said, check them out. I drew these with Cabby. And these are things that I can't teach, and these are things that I don't go out and ask for. It just happens. And again, this is all research-based and documented, and so it's not just a bring your dog to work day, but it's referenced there, and you have the back side of your packet has all these, and they're all links. And I found a really interesting article about workplace wellness. Amazon up in Seattle has hundreds and hundreds of dogs that they take to their offices. I think numbering in the 700s. And just recently I heard an article on the news, I think it was either this morning or yesterday morning, where they're paying people to bring dogs to their workplace because it's more productive. This is in Japan. So it's not new, and I hope it's not the last. I think if we were given a chance in the next 5 years, we could make this a model program. There are other programs in the area that have dogs on campus, but not like ours. They train guide dogs at Don Lugo High School. They have a senior project at Lincoln High School where they train therapy dogs, but they're not integrated into our campus like we have here. And I would love for you guys to visit our schools and our classrooms, especially when they're not in my classroom, because she just sleeps in my classroom now. And just look for yourself and see the impact that it has. And I hope you support us and have it grow. Do you guys have any questions for us?
Any questions? Ken?
Yes. Does the dog come to the student or the student go to the dog?
Either way. I mean, if we let her loose now, she would come and greet you and look for food.
How do you select your dog?
I'm sorry?
How do you select the dog?
Through temperament. Cabby's actually a rescue. Lexi was raised as a puppy, and Cabby was a juvenile delinquent. She was a runaway. And the reason I started to train her, I never had this intention, but I was walking around the neighborhood, and she was fairly new to me. And a 2-year-old girl named Ellie from my neighborhood came up and asked if she could pet Tabby. And I thought she was going to tap Tabby on the head, and I said, okay. And she went in for a full bear hug. And I thought, oh, there goes the house. But Tabby just sat there and just licked her face like, oh, she was ice cream, and everything was great. And my love went on, and I did a lot of research. And it turned out I lived in Laverne, Bonita High School had a therapy dog program, so I visited the lady who was in charge. She's no longer there. Their program's kind of gone away without her. And I got all of her research, and she shared graciously with us, and I modified it to our school. And they did it as a senior project, so after they left, they were gone, and the dogs went with them. And we select the dogs based on our teachers, because we want the dogs to be present and the owners to be present. We don't want any old dog. And so there's that connection piece also. And the student and the teacher can bond and work together, and the teacher will be there after the students graduate and the dogs get served. And the only issue I have with Tabby is that I'm using her too much. And she's in the classroom, and she's getting tired faster because she's getting older. And so I would love to have more dogs integrated into our program. And we're looking out for her wellness. And when she was a little younger, she worked great and tirelessly. Now she kind of goes in and like, okay, I'm done. So I can relate to that.
Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you so much for your presentation. There's more coming.
All you had to do was say, and here's mine. Unwrap it.
Wait till I introduce you guys. And go counselors.
Here's another one for saying that.
Sabai, go take pictures.
Mr. Logan in the picture?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you intro.
You got your gift.
I'm going to save my one picture for the counseling group.
Oh. Miles, who are your favorites?
There are favorites amongst you.
Depending on the day.
Depending on the day. We've already been through this, guys. Depending on the day.
He's already told me I always bring problems. What do you want me?
I was going to say, we're a special presentation. We're not a special presentation, so I don't think we're taking those. He knows that.
Nice try. Oh, whoa. Nice try. Oh, yeah.
The board dialogues, they just has to end
At 10?
They can't go past 10 unless they vote for it.
So then we're not going to get home until 11. We'll be back at 7. Where? What time are you get? 6:30? 6:10. Oh, wow.
Okay, I mean, what, 8 to 8?
That's why I put my glasses on. My eyes are so bad.
You like good gifts that people have?
I wait for it.
I don't know, but do I get a gift? It's absolutely not. How many people? I was like, a handful? I got to get rid of
I
it.
got the blue one
It's
now.
worked out well. It come every board meeting. You are such a negotiator.
It does.
See, and I went
It
to
made a difference.
my place for America's
High
Place.
school too. My husband had
And the one day. I've been to other ones, at least 2 other
I got my total over the last 6 years.
Yeah, at least 2. They've never been the same.
They always are.
It's so funny, like,
Next time when you bad.
I live with my glasses today. Excuse me in front of my computer. Wearing your glasses. I don't want you. I don't want to see you having a
It's so hard to
Okay, well, we're going to move back to our agenda now. Item 11, public comment on agenda items. I do have 4 requests tonight. And the first one is from, I'm just going to, Davo G. I'm just going to go with the G, okay? And he is here to talk about price reduction for the hourly rate at the pool for an aquatics club. So Davo, come on. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Coach Davo Garagosian. I've been coaching the boys and I've also coached the girls water polo teams at Temple City High School. Currently what we have done in the past and are doing right now after our season ends, which runs about from July to mid-November depending on how the CIF goes. I would volunteer and go down every day for at least about an hour to continue some sort of whether it's a chalk talk, weight training, or some sort of aquatic training for our teams to maintain not only what we've already achieved in the 3 months, but to prepare for the next season. But lately, in the past 2 years, we've been getting into some troublesome areas. Number one has been a big decline in student participation. So this year we've had 25 student athletes for both junior varsity and varsity. From the 25 of them, 15 of them were brand new, meaning they did not know how to swim or throw a ball at all. Another issue we've been having is finding coaches that will commit for the long term. In the past 5 years I've been here, I've had to try to find a new assistant coach every single year. Another issue is we've been drastically lowering the level of performance our athletic teams have been putting out, from the swim team to the girls and boys water polo team. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, with your permission, create an aquatics club which will start teaching the kids from the Temple City area about water safety and aquatic sports, whether it's be swimming, diving, water polo at a young age, to create a stronger foundation for the programs in the future. What I think it will also help us with is creating a platform where the coaches can commit and stay at a long-term rate, and also it will help us out with all 3 of the programs by creating some extra donations and funds that we can use for free uniforms, extra tournaments, and since we do have a new pool, one of our goals has been to create a soft frosh program and to create some sort of a salary, call it, for a extra coach that we can hire and get new equipment and all of that. So the price right now is at $100 an hour. It's a little steep, especially with what we want to do, where we want to make the practices for all of the kids around as cheap as possible. Currently, if we do 2-hour training every day for, 4 times a day for 2 hours, we're looking at about $30 to $100 just monthly for the pool fee, which wouldn't allow us to have any low rates for our participants. Also, to have some of the alumni that we have graduating, going into some of the city colleges, to have some sort of a off part-time coaching position to be able to contribute back and be part of the program again. If you guys have any questions?
Any questions or comments?
Yeah, just real quick, I just want to make sure I'm understanding your request. Is it just about the pool rates
Yes.
here today?
Yes.
Yeah, pool rates, okay.
And he did provide a proposal for us to take a look at. Which I'm
Yes, so in that folder you'll find a 5-page business plan. We've also got a copy of our incorporation papers. We have a IRS tax ID number. I've registered with USA Water Polo. We're a member of Safe Sport. And also there's liability forms that we'll pass out to each student athlete. We also have a website up at tcaquatics.com. Pretty much all the little details are taken care of. We're just hoping we can get some sort of a price reduction to just go up and running as soon as possible if we can.
Great, Don, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
We'll take a look at it, thank you. Second request is from Laura Centeno, and she wants to talk about the grad night shed, thank you.
Yes. Dr. Fraser, board members, thank you for giving me the opportunity. My name is Laura Centeno, and I am co-chairing the grad night event. This year, I'm here to discuss the matter of the grad night shed. As you all are aware, grad night is a special event for the students, for the community, as well as for the volunteers that put endless hours into this event. This event is also an expensive one. To offset those costs, what we tend to do is for 9 months, we get a committee of volunteers to donate their time and their efforts to cut, to paint, and to create decorations, to build stands, to do anything. And a big, important element of that was this shed where we used to work out of. So this shed, we house paints, tools, supplies for us to be able to do this on the weekends, because most parents do have full-time jobs, as myself. And so when that was taken away during the summer, obviously it became a little bit of a hardship for us, where we are now starting to plan to be able to use this shed. Luckily, since all of our items were removed, and now part of it was returned, we are sharing now the shed with the maintenance. For me now, it's just a little bit of a denial way in terms of being able to work at this time. But it's also very important for us to be able to wheel out tables, to wheel out the 30 to 50 paint cans. So giving us a limited space, obviously, would hinder those efforts for us. And obviously, it's not an event that we plan overnight. It does take many hours and many volunteers. So I agree with the school's consideration for proposal for us to get the shed back. So be able to work at the convenience and not having the hassle of having to keep moving things. Currently, I've been working there for 2 times a week, for a couple of hours. And basically, I've been, if I want to get to something right now because of this aisleway that I'm just being able to access, now I have to move cardboard to get to certain things and everything else. So consideration from the board to get the shed back would be great. Currently, the school did assess that we do have several bins, and these bins currently house previous decorations, okay? And these decorations are very important because also it saves expenses and costs for us. So for 2 years ago, class of 2018 created these wonderful floral decorations, very vibrant colors. Last year for 2019, that committee used it for a Candyland section. This year, I'm hoping to use those for perhaps the Mad Hatter Tea Party, which is a theme for the grad night event. So these bins are also very important for us to store things because that costs money as well. So I'm just here for the board to consider giving us back the shed. We're going to start our work parties. You're all welcome to come help volunteer. We're there from 9 to 1. And so it would make our jobs a little bit easier if we got that shed back, just to be able to work and access those tools and supplies a little bit easier for us. And if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. The bins right now house, if you have questions, game booth, stands, food booths, and things that are used every year. We take things out, we repaint them, we use them all over again. So it's not something that we do not trash, okay? So do you have any questions?
All right, thank you very much, and of
Okay,
course, you
thank
know
you.
that we have that on our agenda for consideration later on this evening.
Thank you so much for your consideration.
Okay, the next request is from Dana Salinger, who wants to talk about our kindergarten program. At least I'm assuming it's our kindergarten program.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak about our kindergarten program. My name is Dana Salinger and I teach kindergarten at Longden. And I've been teaching in this district for 20 years, and 12 of those years have been in kindergarten, partnering with Jen DeVito. Now, recently, administrators in the district office have opened up a discussion about possibly transitioning our program to either an extended day or a full-day kindergarten program. And I'm here to let you know what our current half-day program offers our students. So in our current program, there are 2 credentialed teachers in the classroom for the whole day. They're both offering their guidance, resources, expertise, carefully planned lessons, and support. And for 2 of those hours each day, both teachers are teaching language arts, or math in a small group setting. So now in that small group setting, we are able to really individualize our instruction. We're able to challenge those students who are ready to take lessons step by step. We're able to remediate, we're able to reteach, and we're able to help support those students who really need some extra guidance. So please consider getting to really know our program before making any decisions that could drastically change it. And I understand why one would think that a longer day to teach would be advantageous. I'm a very logical person, and that seems like a very logical conclusion. But the contributions, resources, guidance, support, and commitment that Jen DeVito gives to my class and vice versa is more valuable than any amount of additional instructional minutes times 1,000. And that goes for any kindergarten classroom in our district. Our kindergarten teachers work extremely well together, and I'm very proud of the program that we offer all of our students. So I ask you to please take careful consideration while making any decisions that will have any effect on it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And then our last request is from Mr. Matt Byers, who wants to talk about support for funding of the Mission Playhouse. Matt?
Can I save my comments for when we come to that, or I need?
That'd be fine.
Okay, good.
Yeah, remind me in case I forget.
Okay.
I know you're not shy. Okay, now we are on to district updates, starting first with business services and Marianne Sorrell. Marianne, what do you have for us tonight?
Good evening. Brief update. All the bond projects at La Rosa and Cloverly are still scheduled to complete at the end of the year. We don't see anything in the way at this point in time. And the credit rating for the district, you should be very proud, is still a AA-, which is the highest rating the district can have for its revenue size. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Moving on to educational services, we have Hannah Getty, who's pinch hitting for Dr. Josh Porter. Hannah?
There is an update here from Dr. Porter regarding the communication about all-day kinder. On November 8th, an email was sent out to all elementary teachers as a follow-up to full-day kinder presentation that was given to the board in last April of 2019. Teachers were invited to join for a brief voluntary meeting on the following dates next week. I think at La Rosa on November 18th, November 20th at Longden, and November 21st at Emperor. Each meeting will begin at 3 p.m. Teachers who attend will be paid their non-instructional hourly rate. In anticipation of our meeting, we've asked that teachers provide thoughts on a survey that will go out so that information gathered prior to our meeting can then guide our discussions. And he's got information for the November 25th Professional Development Day. On November 25th, we'll be hosting a PD for our staff who were not able to attend the summer professional development session as part of their contractual obligation. Notification will be going out to staff regarding this day. And then lastly, on November 6th and 7th, the district hosted a Wonders Professional Development Training for our elementary teachers. A trainer was provided by the publisher and as part of our negotiated contract. The purpose of this training was to follow up with teachers and provide additional supports now that they've had time to use Wonders within their own classroom and students.
Great, thank you, Hannah. And then last is Personnel Services, Dr. Monica Metkovitz.
I want to thank all the educated and classified staff that completed their mandated reporting training.
For those of you who still need a little bit more time, I will reset and resend you a new email by Friday, so you have time to complete that training before the Thanksgiving break. I would also like to thank my staff. They just survived credentialing audit training and they're back in action today. So please, if you have any questions, we are fully staffed again, and I do want to thank them for participating in that training because they go through all the different levels of credentials that there are and the process and how to get new teachers matched with their induction mentors. So it's a very valuable training, and I do appreciate their willingness to stay the course for the whole week. I do want to thank the CSCA 105 and 823. We kicked off our classification study. We are starting with our classified employees, which are about 270 with 63 different classifications. I will talk more about that later tonight, but as we move forward, we're working together as a team to make sure we interview all our staff members and get input on what is happening on each of our sites. We restart our union negotiations with TCEA and CSCA next week, so we're looking forward to that, and we will provide the district updates as we move forward. Thank you.
Very good, thank you, Monica. Now we are on to bargaining unit comments. We'll start first with TCEA. Ellen, do you have anything you want to share there?
Thank you. I don't know if all of you were here when Mr. Marsh and Ms. Andrews were here with their web program, but I just wanted to mention to all of you, it was a pretty neat program, and I'm going to work to helping them get compensated for what they do. They do that for 16 years now. Mr. Marsh has done that with no stipend or hourly pay. So I'm going to work for that. I think it's very valuable. So thank you, board members, for being here. I appreciate all the service that you do for our students. It's a big job, and I'm grateful to you and your commitment. I've been to a lot of board meetings, probably not as many as President Smith or maybe possibly Mr. Nolenberg. Together, we've seen a lot of change, and I want to talk to you about that tonight. We've seen board members change, we've seen superintendents change, we've seen cabinet change, we've seen a lot of change in ed services in the district, yet our teachers are still here, and amidst all this change and dysfunction, we still stand, and we're the district's constant. So 1 year, I want to talk about some changes that I've seen. I saw the school board adopt a $35,000 online language program called Middlebury, and as teachers, we were told to use the program. Doesn't matter, any language. Just use it, put the kids on it. So, you know, your teachers, they kind of took that input and they chose wise and practically, and, you know, they made the appropriate decisions you would make in a classroom for when somebody tells you to just go ahead and use a Middlebury language program. It doesn't matter what language. We had a superintendent who had a public forum one evening, held at the high school media center. I think I was sitting next to Dr. Lynn at the time. And that superintendent showed a PowerPoint, and half of it was plagiarized from Dr. Joel Shaw in Arcadia. So these are the types of things we've endured. Yet we're still here. We had a superintendent who mandated coding at our elementary school sites because we wanted to be the first coding school in the country, in the nation. So we endured that. We're still here. We're still standing. We're in the trenches every day with these changes and these decisions. Elementary teachers fought for themselves about 5 years ago to have an online report card. Not a Common Core report card, but an online report card. We had a triplicate report card till 5 years ago. We did that ourselves because we were tired of manually filling out triplicate report cards. So we brought about that change ourselves. So of course, the next step was to have a Common Core report card. But we knew at the time when we were being asked to make the Common Core report card that you really shouldn't do that. You should really make rubrics first. So what we did was backwards. So now we have a Common Core report card, but we don't have any rubrics. So we've endured all this, and you know we're still here. We work every day, we show up with the kids. We're in the trenches, making decisions minute by minute, second by second, if you're with these lower elementary age kids. We had one site who's had 9 principals in 20 years. So it's challenging, there's a lot of dysfunction. As you know, when you show up here and you work here, there's dysfunction. We don't leave, we stay. We can talk about textbooks. We have textbooks that are some 15 to 20 years old. So what do? We create our own curriculum. I feel curriculum drives the district. We should have a really strong ed services program, and we're denied a basic need. So we don't really have a Williams violation. We have books, but they're ancient. So we're lifelong learners, and we're creative, and we try our best. And we do what's right for the kids every day in our classroom, while all this dysfunction goes on in our lives year after year. We're still here, and we work hard. We're the ones on the front line. We're not surviving, we're thriving, in spite of all the dysfunction, in spite of all the changes, the misdirection, and the interesting, challenging decisions. We know that we turn out a terrific product. Quite often I come to a board meeting and I see their product on display week after week, month after month. We celebrate our student successes. So we feel as teachers, we have that valuable insight and that knowledge about our programs because we're the ones that are here and we're the constant. We're here, we're the stabilizing force in your district amongst all these changes. And so that leads me to our budget. Last month when I was here, I misspoke and I said that the salary increase of 1% for our union would be $350,000. I was wrong. I looked it up in the binder that Marianne had given me, and the cost of a 1% salary increase is $305,000. So I expect soon to be getting the cost of what our 1% is for this year, and I predict it's going to be even a little bit lower than it was last year. There's an $18 million unrestricted reserve, and so I would ask you all to please consider that this is a public school district, and that a district really shouldn't be showing that much of a reserve or possibly a profit. So please, I would ask that you think of your teachers who's in the trenches, who've been here year after year, thriving with all the dysfunction in our district, and consider the product that you turn out and that we celebrate here every board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Moving on now to CSEA 105, and I don't see Robin. Are you here, Robin? And CSEA 823, Rick Moyna? No? Okay. Then we will move on to student board member comments. Sam, what do you have?
Good evening, everyone. Just a few brief updates for today. November is kind of a slow month for ASB, but we're planning for big events coming in the near future. The high school is currently doing a canned food drive, which will end on the 20th of this month, and the classes with the most cans will be awarded with various prizes. Our kindness week is next week, and we will be decorating the school with posters and holding different activities each day to promote a positive attitude throughout the school. And Thanksgiving break will be the following week, and that will be a much needed refresher for students all across the district. And lastly, I will be going to a student board member conference in San Diego on December 5th. And that's it for today. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Samuel. Now we'll move on to board member comments, starting tonight with member Nollenberg. Kim?
Just a couple of quick ones. We attended a meeting that the LA County put on, and I think all but 2 of the members were present, 2 of the board members were present. But the speakers talked about financing, and he had a concern about, he made a point about reserves, and he didn't like, he looked at the reserves as a method of being able to take on special projects one time only, and to make a cost center out of the reserves. If we don't have the reserves, we don't have a cost center. And if you look at the reserves we have, there's some of it's already committed. Part of it's committed by the 5% rule. The 3% the state wants, 2% we want. It's also stated for new classrooms, new material for classrooms, books and et cetera, which is almost $1 million a year. And we do that every other year, only because it's too hard on the teachers to be able to do it 2 or 3 at a time. We got at least 4 to do, maybe more, but a minimum at least 4 to be in compliance with the state. So the reserves, in one sense, is a method of being able to save some of the money. And we don't budget the reserves like other people, where we put potential costs against the reserves. But the reserves are there if bad times come, and we won't be able, and for the state of California, they look at this, look at the school district as solvent, not solvent, if we can't meet payroll for a long period of time. And I can remember a couple of years ago when bad times came, we spent probably $13,000 just on interest a long time ago, where we borrowed money from California School Board Association, who managed to come up with some money, because we didn't have enough reserves. Also, we attended the school foundation meeting yesterday, and the school foundation is making it clear that they do not want money given to them per se. They want to be able to give permission playhouse or some other thing. So it's still up in the air what we're going to do. But the first critical one is the Christmas program, which is coming up in December. And I hope everybody had a happy holiday for Halloween, which is already passed. And for the 28th of this month, I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. There's two special events. One of them is on November 16th, 17th, and 18th. There is a holiday show at Kathy Chambers' house, where she has a lot of items that were made and are on consignment. And there's also a T&T, which is treasures and trinkets on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the 15th, 16th, and 17th. So it's the 16th, 17th, 15th, 16th, and 17th in Pasadena, which is a big swap. And that's only once a year. So those are the 2 things. Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks, Ken. Now we'll move on to Member Espinoza.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to talk about 2 things tonight. I attended the homecoming game and worked the snack farm, which I've never done, which was an experience. It was fun. But I was disappointed that the game was canceled due to the conditions of the field, and I know everyone made the best out of that situation. And I appreciate everyone's efforts in that tough situation. I would say that I'm hoping that we can consider something to improve the conditions of the track and the field, because it is a location that every student in their career at that school will have either instruction there, or they'll have, events or ceremonies there. So I really think it's a priority, and I'm hoping we can take a look at that and come up with a good solution. And then the other thing I want to talk about is something that I learned when I was at the California School Board Association trainings. They talked about some advocacy. The CSBA has an advocacy branch for education, and they're currently advocating for full and fair funding. If you go to fullandfairfunding.org, you will see what it's about. But basically, they're calling on the legislature in California to raise the school funding to the national average by 2020. Currently, California ranks 38 in the nation in per pupil spending. So California is spending $10,281 per student, The national average per student is $12,756. So we've got a gap here in the state of $22,475 per student. That is significant funding for the number of students we have. I think 5,700 students. So it's significant, and I don't think this is an unreasonable request or call to the legislature. What I would like to ask is that the board adopt a proposed resolution. There is a proposed resolution on the site that we could adopt in support of this legislative request, and then and obviously I want to make sure everybody's educated. If it interests you to go to that website, and there's a petition to sign. I think they're almost at 9,000 signatures. They need 10,000 for it to be on the ballot. So please look into that. Be educated on it and support, because we have limited funding and we need to do something about it. So thank you.
Great, thanks, Melissa. And now we will hear from Dr. Michael. And Mike, what do you have first?
Well, thank you, Board President Smith, and good evening, everybody. Kudos to Oak's web program and TCHS Service Dog Therapy Dog program, showcasing excellent programs that benefit our students. Also, to piggyback on what Ken was saying, I attended with Ken and Matt the county trustees meeting, the LASTA meeting, on the FICMAS CEO Mike Fine's presentation about the budget and potentially some economic indicators. We're looking at declining enrollment statewide pretty much, especially in Southern California. We have the PERS, which are the retirement commitments, cost factors increasing. We have special education, which is a very expensive program because IDEA funding guaranteed at 40%, we get anywhere from 8 to 15%. Our district, I think, gets less than that, about less than 15%. So with all those factors, I felt compelled to take some courses. So today I was at a UDL training with the CELPA. UDL stands for Universal Design for Learning. It's part of the new ESSA. Remember, NCLB now is the SSA, Elementary and Secondary Education Act. So UDL, Universal Design for Learning, is part of the replacement for No Child Left Behind. Very informative. I'm going to return tomorrow for part 2 of the boot camp and learn more about that program, because as an educator myself, I want to see how that can help with the special education question, as well as increasing access for all types of learners. Other than that, I would like to welcome, wish everybody happy Thanksgiving, given that we don't have a meeting in the next 2 weeks.
Great, thanks, Mike. And then Donna Trujillo. Donna.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank Temple City High School for that presentation on the therapy dogs. I've been wanting to see that. That is an exceptional program, and it's something that I hope we can grow at the high school. It's amazing, and I really enjoyed that. Also, I want to thank Oak Avenue for their presentation on the web program. Those students are so articulate. It's really inspiring, and it's gratifying to see what they're able to do. So congratulations for Oak Avenue. I wanted to announce, I'm sure the high school already knows this, but the Southern California Edison scholarships are they're going to be accepting applications for them. The deadline is December 16th, and I believe it's a $40,000 scholarship. Maybe a couple years ago we had a student that received one, so it's a great scholarship that all our students should try to get apply for that. I want to congratulate Alexa Espinosa for being chosen to perform with the Honors Performance Series. Alexa's a junior at Temple City High School and an excellent singer, and so that's real exciting. Mostly you'll have to tell us about how that goes. So, congratulations to her. I want to wish the cross-country team at Temple City High School good luck. They're performing in CIF this Friday.
I'd like to thank the Brighter Side Singers for performing at the city's, representing the district and performing at the city's Veterans Day ceremony. As usual, they were excellent. I attended the Halloween activities at Emperor on Halloween Day, and that was so much fun. The kids do a little penny carnival, and they have the pumpkin decorating and carving, and it was really a lot of fun. So thank you for inviting me to that. This Friday is our joint city and district meeting, so I'm looking forward to that and discussing about how we can work more closely with the city to benefit our students. And finally, I wanted to announce that the Temple City Women's Club is having a Christmas party on December 8th. If you don't know, the Women's Club supports our schools a lot. They donate money to the schools. And so if you're able to attend, that's our biggest fundraiser of the year. It's on December 8th, and I can help you get a ticket if you'd like to go. So thank you very much.
Great, Donna, thank you. And then I'm going to wrap it up tonight. Like everybody up here, I'm very proud of the presentations we had tonight from both the web group at Oak Avenue and the therapy dog from the high school. We have a lot of really wonderful things going on in this district, and it's really nice to see the impact it has on the students and the faculty and staff have stepped up to providing them. So thank you to everybody who's involved with that. I also had a chance to attend the LASTA meeting that Mike talked about a few weeks back, and the gentleman from FICMAT, which is Financial Crisis Management Assistance Team, which is a state body, spoke a lot about districts that get in trouble with their finances. And the interesting thing, he said the districts who get in trouble most are the ones who refuse to admit they have a problem. So he said, sound the alarm early and they'll help any way they can. Anyway, take that to heart. Congratulations to both the water polo team, the cross country, and the ladies golf teams, all who went on to CIF, and very pleased to see that happen as well. Had a chance to spend an afternoon at Emperor on Halloween the 31st, and got a chance to see all the pumpkins they carved and whatnot. That was well worth the use of my time, and I appreciated that very much as well. I got so many scribbles here, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh yeah, looking forward to attending the Employee of the Year luncheon on the 14th. Also looking forward to attending the meeting with the city on Friday and talking about what we can do, talking about what we can do together to make us team better going forward for the benefit of the entire community. And then, just as Mike referenced, according to our bylaws, we do have a regularly scheduled meeting on the 27th of this month, which is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and we will not be meeting that day. In fact, we'll be amending our bylaws when we get together for the reorganizational meeting in December. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Kimberly Frickert. Kim.
Thank you very much. I do want to thank Mrs. Hemmons, principal over at Oak, for putting on the web presentation. I got to see web at the beginning of the school year, and it was just such a thrilling experience for me to see the students who were so incredibly engaged and just united as this large, extremely large body of students in the gym. It was blown away. And from walking out of that presentation, Mr. Marsh was just an amazing person who I wanted to bring back to give a board presentation. So I'm glad you all got to see it. That was really nice for him and for the students too. And I think just reaching out and the connection that they have really makes Oak a very special place. So thank you for bringing the presentation forward. We are in the midst of 3-year planning at the district office, making sure that we are putting in those plans across not only this year, but out to the 2 out years so that we can go through some of those discussion points where it hits all different departments, all different school levels, all different teachers in terms of the curriculum and the programs that we'd be bringing forward, and also the curriculum materials that we would be looking at to later on pilot and adopt, and making sure that we don't overtax certain grade levels, especially down at the elementary level where we know that you teach all grade levels, and having an adoption after an adoption is really taxing. So we are trying to make sure that we plan those things out across 3 years, so we are very mindful of those types of impacts, but also it allows us to have conversations and collaborate with the union and the counselors and our different teachers and different groups and our administrators so that they can weigh in and help guide that process so that we can avoid things that have impacts on individuals that we may not be aware of. Not that we don't want to, we just don't sit in the same seats, but we want to make sure that those voices are heard in that planning process. So we're going to be completing that through the next couple of months. We also have a parent forum, our community forum, there's a piece of literature on the back table there. We just want to welcome the community to be a part of the strategic planning that's going to go on, returning with the mission and vision, and just kind of revitalizing that and looking at that. That information will be gathered from all of the stakeholder input and then brought back to the board at a later date. So we'll be working on that mission. And then I do want to thank Longden team, and I know that colleagues of mine went over to Longden for lunch on the lawn, and that was a truly remarkable experience just to see families gathered and eating lunch with their children. The staff, I think, had just as great a time as the parents and the students were, so that was also nice to see. So had a happy time visiting over there. So that concludes my comments.
Great, thank you, Kim. Okay, with that, we will move on to written communications. Does anybody have any written communications they'd like to share? No? Okay. Then we're on to the discussion and information portion of our agenda, starting first with business services and an update on facility use by Mary Ann Squirrel.
Presentation I'd like to go through with you is our current process for facility use. One of the forms that's going to be on a future slide is very hard to read, so I'm sending full copies around. Maybe it'll be easier to read them. So our current process for individuals or groups that would like to use facilities in the district is there's a form online on our website under business services. And folks can it's a fillable form, they can either fill it out, they can print it out, whichever they prefer. Once that's completed, it comes into the business services department, and we review it for completeness to make sure they have insurance, to make sure the form's filled out, that we know which areas they want to use, what days they want to use it. And then we do an estimate of what the fees will be, and we share that with the person requesting, and if they're still interested, after they know what the fees are, then we check availability at the site. So we check with their calendar to make sure it doesn't interfere with any student activities or other activities. Maybe someone else has already reserved the area that they want to use. If all that goes through, then we go ahead and tell them that the use is granted. We coordinate any custodial use. If it's done during the school day, which generally they aren't, if it's an outside group, then we talk to them about custodial needs. Our contract requires a minimum of 2 hours show-up time. The custodians would be working overtime, so it's at time and a half. If it's going to be a long event, say 6 or 8 hours, we'll usually be scheduled one custodian to open for 2 hours, and then another custodian to come back and clean up at the end for 2 hours.
Mary Ann, people not only can, in the current process, people can also go to the school site and get this form or submit the form. Is that not right?
It is available at the school sites as well.
And it just gets transitioned to
and they move it to us first. So we take a little pressure off the sites. We don't want them to feel responsible to check insurance or availability. So we go through all that. We give the estimate of fees, as I mentioned, so the group can decide if they still want to move forward. But they can get it there, they can come in here to the DO and get a copy. It doesn't have to be filled out, typed, it doesn't have to be fillable, I don't care if it's handwritten, whatever's easier for them.
The facilities use agreement, it guarantees somebody has a spot if it's approved, right?
Yes.
And so if it isn't put in, then there's nothing that says that they have that site on school property.
Right, because of course student activities have first crack at any of our facilities, so we have to make sure that none of the teams, none of the student activities are using the space. And then we also let them know, should a student activity come up, maybe a game is rescheduled for some reason, that students always take preference, and we communicate with them if we need to make a change.
Okay, and the costs that you alluded to are the costs that are being studied, right?
I'll get to that in just a minute, if that would be okay. Okay, thank you. So that's the current. Then this is just a little bit of a summary of the costs that are recovered by the fees. So we maintain the gym floors, sports fields, pools, grounds, repairs to facilities. We also have utilities, that are used for a lot of these activities. Liability insurance and custodial expenses are recovered. That's not an all-inclusive, just sort of an idea. And why do we charge the fees? There are very few ways for school districts to make money to offset fees and expenses. So this is one thing that we can do that is part of the Civic Center Act, and we're allowed to do it. And all districts do have a facility use fee currently. So this is just...
Sorry, we're not talking about a lot of money. This is really just to maintain our facilities.
It's not a lot of money at all. For example, and I may be off a little bit here because I'm going by memory, but to rent a classroom is $15. So it's not a lot of money. The gentleman that spoke earlier today, he talked about it being $100. So it's $100 for the entire pool per hour. And I'll talk about where those fees came from and what I would like to ask the board permission to review to go forward. But I'll get that in just a minute.
Okay, thanks.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. So these are just some examples of groups that use our facilities. I won't bore you by reading all of them. And these are the kind of facilities that are used. So people use classrooms, cafeteria, lunch shelters, restrooms. And the fee for restrooms, pardon me, is to take care of all the costs of the various accoutrements you need in a bathroom. District office parking lots, sports fields, lunch shelters, as I mentioned. Those are some of the things that are used at all the sites. This is the form that is a little difficult to read on the screen, so I gave the board a larger example to look at. So I'd like to walk through just a couple of things. The first thing is just the date that they're submitting it, because we want to try and make sure that they go through quickly and we get back to them as quickly as we can. Is who's asking to use it. We also ask what the organization is and all their contact information so we can get hold of them easily. We ask if they charge fees, because if a person charges or a group charges fees, it makes a difference of what fees the district can charge. Hours, what locations they're looking for, if they need restrooms, if they need custodial, all that's filled out here. At the bottom is our approval process. So the first thing we do is we go through, as I mentioned, we make sure all their insurance is correct. We have to be named as additionally insured on their insurance. It doesn't cost them more to have that done, and it's a very simple thing that's done through insurance companies. A few people have called and said, I don't have insurance, I don't know how to get it. Our JP has a couple different contacts for them to call and get help. If they're having like a one-day event, maybe they're having a garage sale or they're having a fundraiser for 1 or 2 days, they don't have to buy insurance for a year. They get very short-term insurance just to cover the time that they've got an event, and it's really not very expensive. So we help them get connected with folks like that. And then we mark when we talk to the person, when we gave them the dollar amount, any questions we ask them, we track all of that so we can stay on good schedule with them. The next page of this is a couple of our rules, so to speak. We'd like some feedback if there's anything you'd like to add to these. But there are things like, no smoking, no animals, that everyone who's in the group stays in the area that they're asking to use. If they have children with them, that they keep a good eye on them and keep them safe. We do have some information also about vandalism. If there's any damage, then there will be a back charge for any damage caused by a group. And no climbing on the roof, no climbing on fences, and no altering anything on the site. So they can't have a contractor come in and do any work on our site that would alter the facilities. And they also can't subcontract out to another group.
So the second bullet, no animals?
Yes.
Maybe with the exception of therapy dogs.
So, right, well, this is for the group that's coming to use our facility. Right, this isn't for our own group.
But we still have an obligation. Wouldn't they be obligated to accommodate people that have service animals, even if?
Absolutely, even a service dog, absolutely. So that's probably a good comment to add there. Thank you. The next couple of slides are more information than you probably ever wanted about the Civic Center Act. So I won't go through the entire thing, but it basically was passed by the legislature so we could
charge fees to maintain our facility. So everything that we're doing is legal. It's very, very old. It's from 1917, so it's not something new. I'll let you read that as your letter. There are 3 categories of folks that use our facilities. Group 1 applies to groups like the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, PTA. They do something to help the school district and help the students. They're not charging fees, and it's in complete support of Tcusd and Tcusd students. The second one is a nonprofit organization that is coming to use the facility. And nonprofit, as everyone knows, doesn't mean a group can't make a profit. It just dictates from the IRS how those profits have to be spent within the year that they're earned. And again, I won't bore you with all the detail of that. And then the third group is a for-profit group. So they're going to charge fees to people who are coming, or they're going to do fundraising, and they're going to collect monies from people that are participating in their event. The board policy is 1330 that rules us for our particular district in conjunction with the Civic Center Act. And the next steps are, I would like to ask the board for permission to do another study. We had a study done back in 2016 by the Dillinger Group. That study only provided us with 1 level of charging fees, and it actually should have 3 levels for the nonprofits and the for-profits. So the board could give direction when they're ready to. I'd like to have that study done again. We're going to update the request for facility use process to make it easier for folks to get that in. And we're going to make some training opportunities for any organizations that would like to use our facilities, so it's clear to everyone how it works. There's a little bit of confusion with some staff members and some of the groups. So I'd like to offer a couple training sessions so we can go through that to make it easier for everybody. And the last thing I'll do, and I'll bring back in December, is a flow chart detailing the process. Any questions?
I had one comment. I think when we looked at the facility use, especially with the calendaring of all of our facilities and the rooms or the outdoor facilities that we have, it's really important that people use the facility use request. Just because you have an item on, say, the district calendar as an activity, that doesn't get on the facilities activity. The facilities activity would actually schedule that room or area so that you would avoid conflicts of multiple people using the same area by accident. And it would also initiate the custodial process to unlock doors or relock it after the folks have left. So it is very essential to get on that calendar to prevent double booking of areas and then the appropriate absence.
So what we're saying right now is the current process you just outlined is the process.
Yes.
And we're going to provide training for people, training opportunities for people to come and learn if they're not certain and they have need for use of our facilities.
Yes.
Okay, that's great, because I think there is confusion.
I do too.
It would be great if everybody could understand the process.
Great, any more comments or questions? Oh, Don?
Yes, and I'm not sure if this is exactly along the lines of what you're talking about, but one of the things I did want to bring up and I brought up at the last meeting is I'm hoping that we can look into some method of being able to provide programs at the pool to the community at large. In the past, several years ago, I know the county used to provide swim lessons and open swim. Matter of fact, when I was a child, that's where I learned how to swim. And I think it's, the community paid for that pool, and I think it's something that the community is expecting us to do. I know other school districts do it with their pools, so I'm hoping that that's something we can be looking into now. I think the trend is kind of going towards having like private companies run these programs during the summer as opposed to the city or the county. So I'm hoping that's something we can look into now so that when summer comes, we don't have people disappointed or upset because they're not able to access the pool.
So if I may give a little background, when the pool was first being considered and design is finishing up, the city had approached that they would like to go in 50-50 on the pool and then provide lessons to the community. Their funding didn't allow that, so that didn't happen. I did reach out to Kathy Burrows at the city, who's now retired, and Brian Cook to ask them, sort of what are you guys thinking about for your rec program? What do you want to do in the pool? What do you have in mind to let them know when the pool will be opening? They said last summer they just weren't quite prepared for it, because Kathy was retiring, which was good. And then I reached out again to Brian about a month or maybe 2 months ago and said, what are you guys thinking for next summer? And he said they really didn't have an interest in running a swimming lesson program through the city. So we'll need to look at other options.
Yes. Great.
Any other comments or questions from Mary? Okay, great, thank you very much.
Okay, round two.
Yeah, round two, self-funding and programming.
Oh, sorry, there are two PowerPoints for this one, I apologize.
It keeps going.
Calm down. Okay, so the next topic is storage at the high school. And so what happened is site administration, I'm Richard still here or not? Yes, yes, thank you, Richard. So Richard and his team, district office staff and facility staff, met several times for several hours at a time. We physically walked every single storage space on the campus. And there will be a map in a minute of the storage bins and sheds. But we looked like closets they have, little areas inside the gym, like we went through everything. And what we found is there just isn't enough storage for like all the team needs. So I'm gonna just choose tennis as an example. They have a little bit in one bin, they have a little bit upstairs at the gym, and almost all the sports are that way. Football doesn't have adequate space, volleyball doesn't, and they're kind of tucked away. So we're working together to help reorganize them, put shelving in for them. There's some areas they want sort of caged off to better house their equipment. You can flip one if you want. Oh, I forgot. Sorry. So we walked all of that. So we have some work to do with them to really help them organize and be able to get to their equipment and keep it a little safer. Some of the equipment needs to be replaced, so we went through all that. And then the other area I'd like to go through with you is on this map, and we're going to look at the top left corner, which is the northwest corner of the site. So I'm going to go back in just a second, but this is a detail of the bins, and a bin is basically a shipping container. And then a shed, they're from their brand Tcusd. That's what we have purchased. So the baseball snack bar has bin 1 and 2. Grad night has part of the shed that was mentioned earlier by Mrs. Centeno, bin 5, 6, 7, 8, and 10. And football has bin 3. Emergency supplies are in bin 4 and 4A. Track has shed 2. Performing arts has 11, 12, and 13. Bin 9 is irrigation, that's our M&O group. And facility services is sharing shed 1 with grad night. We've had it a few times, vandalism with our equipment. We have very expensive ride-on lawnmowers and other equipment, and they've gone on the grass and done donuts, and we've had to do a lot of repair on the turf. And so we really need to have that equipment locked up so we're safeguarding the assets of the district. And we also need to give adequate storage to all of our teams and the other groups that are storing on the campus right now. So I'll go back to this map, and again, it's they're very pale green, and they start with bin 1, and then they go up to the top and around the corner. So this is what I just went through with you, what we found to make it better and more efficient for them. And what we're proposing is that we install an additional shed for storage of facilities, equipment, and supplies. We worked with the site, and they've defined an area that's acceptable to them, and it also would work for utilities. For facilities, so they can keep all of their equipment there locked up. It also saves some of our driving back and forth from the M&O M&O grounds area. They can service Longden, the high school, and Oak, and have all the equipment there, which will save some time and money moving equipment back and forth if we have an adequate shed. That would also free up shed 1 for grad night for them to have it available for them at all times to do their work parties and be organized and be able to work more efficiently. It's not really large enough to accommodate grad night's needs and our needs when we share. It's not working for like either group. If we get a new one, if the board approves that, the concrete pad will cost $19,000 approximately, and the shed would be about $32,000 for a total of $51,000. And we can pull that from the deferred maintenance budget.
Any comments or questions from you?
Quick question. You mentioned the difference between a shed and a cargo container?
Right.
Now, is a shed larger than a cargo container?
So sheds come in every size you can even imagine. Some are like the size of just a broom closet.
Some are actually people are using as houses. It looks like a metal shed on the outside and they're building beautiful houses inside. So it very much varies. This one would be large enough to accommodate all the equipment we have for the grounds crew and all their seed, fertilizer, everything that they needed at those 3 sites.
Ken?
Yes, is there school facilities filled out for each one of these bins?
I'm sorry, I missed the last word.
For each of the bins or sheds, is there a school facility filled out?
No, they're permanent tenants. So they're not using it for 1 day or a week. They've been in there for quite some time. So at this point, we have not had those filled out.
So should we?
We can certainly look at that. I'm not sure. And a lot of it is for, school activities. A lot of the storage is for school activity.
I don't think we can put students in sheds. Facility use is usually for people, sheds are for materials.
Any other comments, questions from the audience? Okay, now we will move on to the SILVA funding and programming.
Then just one comment. So this will be coming back to us in December for approving the shed?
Yes, and also I'd like to bring back in December a study for facilities use, for you to make a decision on that. And if any questions come up between now and then, if you'd let me know, I'll make sure I can cover that for you at the next meeting.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
And actually, Dr. Fricker just very nicely asked me if we could address the wellness presentation next. We have lots of things to do. Want to go good things and then maybe move on. So, Ellen here.
We have such dedicated counselors that came here tonight, and I know they're probably killing me right now because they have been here all night. And I want to just share a little bit about my role as Director of Student Services. I wear many hats at different times, and one of them is working with our wellness team and our counselors. And I have to say that's my favorite role. Working with these people, they're so collaborative, they work so well together, and are so dedicated to our students in every way. So it's been very enjoyable to work on this wellness plan. Our goal is by the end of this school year to have a uniform district-wide wellness plan that follows suit at every site. Right now, every site does amazing things for our kids, but we're not always necessarily united in what we're doing. So we're gonna come together to build some processes that can make it even better for our students and our families. So as the counselors that are gonna help me present, if you guys will come on up, I would greatly appreciate it. We're gonna start giving you guys just a little bit of background regarding childhood trauma and how that affects students and how they think and how they are able to behave in a classroom. So just a little bit of background to sort of help shape where we are with everything.
That's you.
All right, thank you. Great to be here. I wanted to start off with a question. Does anybody here know about or has experienced childhood trauma? No, don't answer that. It's a trick question. I already know the answer. The answer is, statistically speaking, several people in the room have. So 60% of adults and about 4 out of 10 children have experienced some childhood trauma. Why am I here talking about it? Well, not just being a counselor with these lovely ladies, but previously I also worked in social services, group homes, foster care. The majority of those kids are all coming from childhood trauma. And what I've realized in my work in the school district and also previously in private schools, most of the kids that we work with are coming from some childhood trauma. So what is childhood trauma? Basically from infant to 18, any adverse circumstance. That could be divorce, abuse of any nature, a parent, a family member incarcerated, psychological circumstances. There's a variety of things. Back in the 90s, they did a research study called the ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. It was done with Kaiser and a doctor out of San Diego. And what they found is that these affect people long term. Anything from depression and anxiety to suicide, and it's generally considered to be the most, I would say, popular study of the last 50 years on health and health outcomes. So how does that affect our school district? Well, just for me personally, most of the kids that I work with at my school are kids who come from that background. And what you don't recognize or what you don't see is those kids don't want to talk about it. It's kind of a taboo subject. It's not something that you want to share. And you're not going to be able to see it on their faces. They're not going to come to you. But if you get to know them, you take the time, most of those kids have come from some pretty difficult circumstances. Well, it's a passion of mine because, I've experienced some of that stuff myself. And when I talk to kids, I really try to find out about their home circumstances. What's going on? Why are you behaving this way? The way that the schools deal with it now, and especially what I've seen at private and public schools, is kind of punitive, consequence. And what they don't understand is that a kid coming from an adverse child experience has a different type of brain. The actual learning brain is shut off and they're in survival mode. So giving them a consequence or putting them on public display for some shaming or kicking them out of school or suspending them, that's actually getting the opposite results of what we want. We want to keep them in school, we want them engaged, we want them feeling good. One of the things that I love about my site and Cloverly, and I have some people here from there, is the way that we deal with those kids is a little bit different. We kill them with kindness to a certain extent. We put the social emotional aspect of the learning before the academics. And it really needs to go in that order for kids to be successful. You have to kind of watch the signs. So kids who are, missing class, coming late, a lot of absences, or they're getting in trouble every day with behaviors, but the behaviors are communicating something. So when I look at kids and I see their behaviors, my first thought is, okay, what's going on with the kid? How can we help them? And that doesn't fall in line with, okay, what do we need to do to make them learn their lesson or get them in trouble or, shame them in front of the class. A lot of our school personnel, they haven't been trained yet on how to help these kids. So really in terms of a wellness plan and trying to move forward, we really want to build our staff's understanding of how the brain works when they're in survival mode. And really, to bring it down to its most basic level, they need to be loved and cared for before they can learn. So if you're not going to do that, they're actually going to fight against you. They will, and they're kind of on automatic pilot, so they don't even know that they're doing it. A lot of these kids aren't even aware that they've been traumatized at an early age. So when they're hit with a circumstance in class where a teacher is going in on them or embarrassing them in front of their peers, not only will they not learn, but they're going to try to get you back. They will disengage from activities, and they're going to be re-traumatized a lot of times in the classroom. So part of the wellness initiative, which I think is great, thank you, Hannah, we want to make sure that those kids are cared for, and that we're identifying them and giving them the support they need. So, thank you.
Ms. Emily's also the counselor at La Rosa, and she was able to give us all this data. She wasn't able to be here today. So the next few slides, each site will share with you some of what we see as student needs, the programs that we are offering, and then where our gaps are, where we can grow, where we might need some help to build out a really solid wellness plan. So at La Rosa, our littles, our TKs through 3, Emily is dealing a lot with students that are facing maybe a family dynamic changing. Sometimes students are here without family, they're staying with uncle and other things may be going on. We are seeing a slight increase in the support we are giving for McKinney-Vento students, which are our homeless students, as well as our foster youth. And then also in these younger ages, really trying to build those social emotional skills and giving them strategies for de-escalation and being able to offer them strategies to grow with. So within the campus program, she's doing a lot of counseling, both group and individual. They do a check-in, check-out, so that they're checking on those students that might be having anxiety or having some other social emotional concerns, and then they're going into the classrooms as well, and then making sure that we are always responding with interventions. She's looking for, hopefully, and we're all talking about, just really creating a district-wide counseling curriculum dealing with social emotional, and then at La Rosa, if they can find a space to create more of a de-escalation area for those kids, and they just need some time to calm down. So, and then next is back to Cloverly.
No, I'm just quiet, but okay.
Just in terms of what we've seen over the past couple of years, and I'm fairly new to the district, this is my second year, coming from private school, the nicest thing about coming to Cloverly is that they really address the social emotional needs of the student. With the help of my principal and some of the other staff in the room, we've decreased the number of referrals and suspensions significantly from last year even to this year. And part of that is our implementation of PBIS, MTSS, and the many acronyms that are out there. But also I think just our staff is open to change, and I think that's a big part of it, is knowing that You know, if you're not willing to change, you can't really expect the child to change their behaviors. So that's been a growth process, I think, just for our staff in general, but also just for the leadership on campus, recognizing that there was a need and that we can service these kids in a more functional manner. Because usually the kids who come to my office are not like the straight A students who are behaving well. I'm working with the kids who are generally struggling, and most of the time those kids are coming from some sort of, you know, difficulties in the home setting. So the gaps really are, you know, can we get the right training to our staff? Can we implement the right positive behavior interventions in a more proactive way versus reactive? And not make it so punitive, because we want the kids to stay in school. We don't want to suspend them. We want them to stay here, and we want them to look forward to coming to school as a safe haven. Unfortunately, for those kids who have been traumatized earlier in their life, or maybe even currently, if they're coming to school and they're, you know, getting bombarded with consequences for not doing homework, and the staff is not even aware of the circumstances that are preventing them from doing homework, that's a huge gap. So being able to inform our staff and train them on A, how to identify them, B, how to get them the services, and also C, how to implement it during the class day when they have 35 kids. One thing that's, you know, hard, I think, for our teachers is, how do we deal with this one kid who's causing me all these problems in my classroom, and then I still have to teach the other 33, 34 kids? Well, that's where generally the counselors and the staff and the administrators, and even other adjunctive staff, I mean, our administrative assistants, our parents who come in and work during the lunch times, they're all working with those particular kids and having to redirect them. So we do come up with behavior plans, interventions, and a lot of the check-ins and check-outs are with those kids who just need more attention and support, and really more caring on a more regular basis. We have one kid at our school, and I'll just reference him, it's the last thing I'm going to say. His name is Ben. I'm not going to give you his last name, but last year it was really a nightmare for him. But with the help of his teachers and the staff, and I think also the administration, he's a different kid this year. I mean, night and day, 180 degrees. So it works if you have the personnel that are invested, are trained, and on the same page. It's a process that if you implement it and you teach it to the staff, it will work. So thank you.
Elementary, Ms. Wendy Bars gave us so much data. She's done such a great job of just really looking at what their needs are on their campus. And I think everyone can agree when you walk on the campus at Emperor, you feel a team-wide culture going on there. So the data here is between 25 to 40 students in individual counseling sessions for the past year, or the past spring to this year probably, and then 12 risk assessments, even at the elementary level. And so that's when we're really assessing a student for maybe self-injury or suicide concerns. There's been group counseling, peer relations, social skills. The data collected I thought was pretty telling of the campus. 82% of students feel safe on campus, and 88% of the students are feeling respected by staff. They have a very cool program that I know other sites have engaged in before, but the Safe Schools Ambassador Program, I was able to visit it recently, and to see the students interact so well, and you're seeing, you know, very young students. I have a 13-year-old son, and these are like 10 and 11-year-old students really engaging with each other and becoming peer leaders, and I thought that was really inspiring, and it was a great thing to see. So following the same suit with PBIS and referrals to community services as needed, gaps where they want to grow as well, and sort of get some help with that mental health professional, having somebody that can really help when there's crisis and other issues going on. Really continue to focus on the parent education regarding suicide risk assessment, and then really improve that parent involvement rate with homework and supporting students at home, and then continue the training with the trauma-informed in education.
Hi, good evening. My name is Martina Motto, and I'm one of 2 counselors now at Longden Elementary. And I want to personally thank the board for the addition of another counselor this year. As you can see from our slide, it has changed our ratio from 1 counselor to over 1,000 students to 1 counselor for less than 500 students, which makes a huge difference in our ability to service students. We've gone from a reactive approach to a proactive approach. And a huge part of that is our positive behavioral interventions and supports, PBIS, which has been mentioned. We have implemented programs where we are teaching students the behaviors we want to see on campus. We're teaching them how to be kind, to be safe, and to be responsible. And so because of that, we're finding that the students are not thinking necessarily of suicide ideation, and as again you can see from our stats, We had 25 risk assessments last year, and so far this year we have had none. So it is a great culture that we're building at Longden. We're very grateful for the additional support. Of course, with that support, we are able to continue our individual and small group counseling sessions. We would really like to implement an evidence-based social emotional learning curriculum, something that we can use across all sites at the elementary and upper levels. And we also would like to see more help from mental health professionals in addition to the work that we're doing. So thank you very much again, appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Porter, and I'm one of the counselors at Oak Avenue Intermediate. And in October, we did a needs assessment with our students. It was a brief survey. It was taken anonymously. Unless the student wanted us to check in on them, then they shared with us who they were. And so that needs assessment has been really helpful in helping us to figure out what services we are going to be providing for our students. And so I wanted to share with you tonight some of the information that we gathered from our needs assessment. And we are finding that about 60% of our students reported that they have test anxiety. So as a result of that, one of the things that we have been continuing to do is to focus on stress management, and we do lessons for our students in the classroom so that every single student, all students, are able to receive the information on how to feel less stress or to manage their stress when they are in a situation, regardless of whether it's testing or personal. We also found that 50% of our students want support to engage in school culture. What that means is, although we offer several opportunities for our students to get involved, because I think middle school, we have them for 2 very short years, our students may feel a little scared, a little nervous, and will probably want somebody to help them to get involved in school. So through that, we were able to start kind of our one-on-one check-ins with students and to reach students that way who needed additional support. About 40% of our students reported low self-confidence, and 20% of our students requested coping skill strategies. So we took that information and it made us look at our small group instruction. So we will be starting small groups for students, focusing on some of these topics in addition to other topics such as grief and loss, conflict resolution, and of course, making referrals to community partnerships, because again, that is very important. We are very busy at Oak, obviously, and so it helps when we have other mental health agencies helping us with our students. We still have our Promoting Success program, which is after school, and that is for our students who struggle academically. Just last night we had a Promoting Success night where we invited families to celebrate the success of their students who were students that have traditionally been failing, and so finally are starting to experience some success, and so we wanted to celebrate that. Where we hope to expand is we would love to offer more small group counseling and hoping to maybe partner with the high school, maybe their peer listeners program. And also, because we value the importance of data, we are making a greater effort to share this data with our staff so that they also understand our population and our kids. The last item, I think, is on everybody's Christmas list, which is we would love more mental health professionals on our campus to reduce the ratios. Currently, we're looking at about 1 to 450 at one counselor to 450 students on our campus. So thank you very much for your time.
So my name is Deanne Sharada, and I'm one of 6 counselors at the high school. And I'll be speaking about Temple City High School. Currently, we have about 20 to 25 students that have been referred to Pacific clinics. We have 2 on-site agencies that come. We have Asian Pacific. They have an intervention specialist that works predominantly with our Asian students. And then we have Pacific clinics that come on campus and they work with students as well. One of the limitations we have with the Pacific clinics in particular is that the student would need to be on Medi-Cal for this, and so
I'll skip a little bit. One of our wish lists is that we can be able to provide some on-site care for the students that have private insurance as well, so that we don't have that limitation. We have a absolutely wonderful secretary, our clerk in our office, and she's very good with data. And she has helped us, starting with last year, but she tracks the students this year on an iPad when they come in. We've had, as of the end of September, the number's a little higher, so the end of September, about 1,200 and, well, our new number's up there, 1,241 students that have come into the counseling office, and that is either a counselor-initiated referral or the student walked in and referred themselves. And so that's quite a number just to date so far in November. In addition to the referrals that we send to students and to the students that initiate a self-referral, we also have a program, because you remember we're a dance between making sure they have their diploma credits, making sure they have the proper courses for A through G for university, making sure they have a post-high school plan, and everything in between would be that personal social. What happens to thwart that plan, and how do we get them back on track? So we work proactively with programs in the high school for the different grade levels. For example, already this year, we met with 489 seniors to go over the Malviance program. We met with, and we have the same number of freshmen, I don't know how that happened, 489 freshmen, and we went over the Naviance introduction for them. And Naviance is a software program we use to research universities and as seniors apply to universities. Debbie Singh incorporated a program last year where she was able to meet with every freshman. So the counselors now are incorporating that same program to meet with every freshman, in addition in smaller groups. About half of us have been able to accomplish that so far. And so when we look at the mental health piece, for us it's really important for us to be able to maintain those proactive programs, but then also provide that mental health support. For example, one student that comes in with a suicidal ideation, by the time we meet with the student, assess the student with 2 counselors, now there's 4 counselors servicing students, could take quite a bit of our day. And then when we call the PET team, we can sometimes wait, psychiatric emergency team, we can sometimes wait up until the evening hours, 8, 9 o'clock. So this can be like an all-day process on 1 or 2 students, when you can see that in just less than 3 months, we've seen 1,200 that have either walked in or we've called in. So our gap and what we're hoping to get is very similar to Oak, and what you've heard from some of your other counselors at the other schools, is we would like to see some mental health professionals on site. We do counseling, we do not do therapy, and there is a difference. And so we can support the students and we can identify issues, but certain issues require therapy and more intensive support. And so, especially with the increase in anxiety and suicidal ideation, we would like to see a wellness center and some things that would support us in that area. So, thank you.
My name is Raul Acevedo. I'm the school counselor at the Dr. Sears Learning Center. We are the continuation school, and also the Temple City Alternative School, which is the independent studies program. The Dr. Sears Learning Center is the credit recovery program, and kudos to all of the counselors that are here tonight and that are not here tonight, especially Temple City High School counselors, because everything that the Temple City High School counselors just described as their needs, well, we are the net that catches the ones that need further resources, another site, an alternative setting. The counselors at the high school do such a great job. Not all of those students that the service need another setting. You know, they might need a temporary independent study, but they're able to do such a great job there that they do keep most of their students. On occasion, they need another site, and that's where we come in. We have right now between our 2 programs very low enrollment. Traditionally, we've had up to 100 students if we look back to 2010 and before. Right now, we have 45 students. What that does for our students, though, is it enables a relationship with every single adult in more ways than one that really helps improve the well-being of each and every single student. We noticed the referrals at each site, 25 to 40 to 100 to various students served. Well, every single one of our students are those students that have been referred in elementary school, and during middle school, in high school. So I thank the board, I thank the superintendent for supporting our site, our staff. We worked really hard to do what's right for the kids there, and we were asked to provide some data, so I'll just go over a couple bullet points. So 100% of our students show up to our school with critical academic needs. We're able to provide very specific, customized, you can say customized academic planning for them to meet their diploma requirements. If it's not through the district, some of them may be eligible through the California High School Proficiency exam. We do have some students who have taken that test, and they're going to be expecting the results actually next week. So there's some nerves, some students on edge, and if those few students pass, then they have an option to stay with us or go on to community college in the spring. So 85% of our students have undergone or have been through some trauma. They have various deficits that get in the way of their learning, their social, emotional well-being, and their behaviors. And we do have a therapist that comes from Pacific Clinics on Monday. She's very famous, Claire Kingston, and she's able to service our students who receive Medi-Cal, and she does a great job with them, and it's nice to have that to service our size population. We do take advantage of that. Some of our special programs, we have two very neat classes. One called Personal Development. Reginald Rios, he's been running this class for quite a number of years now. He does it in 2 quarters. We do have a quarter system, so students can recover their credits. And then we have Healthy Relationships, which covers various topics regarding all interpersonal relationships, not just, the kids love to talk about boyfriend and girlfriend stuff, but it's all interpersonal relationships, familial, in the workplace, sibling, peers, all kinds of things. And Mr. Andrew DeHaan, he teaches that class. We do have a continuation sports league. So some of you may not know that we face Coronado, Del Mar, most of the continuation schools in the San Gabriel Valley. We play them against, we play soccer, like a 4-game season, soccer, basketball, softball. One of the things, the gaps that we've experienced recently though is transportation. So many of the other continuation schools, they show up in a van. We might schedule a play at Rosemead Park or another location. So we've traditionally piled our kids up in our cars and we've taken them to the games, but then there's the liability issue. So last year I bumped up my own insurance to be able to drive students, but this year I had to cut it. I had to make my own cuts, but we're walking to the park and schools are coming over to Rosemead Parks. So that's one of the needs that I'd like to address. I think there was approval for some type of transportation, and so some of us staff members need to go get a certain driver's license now to be able to drive. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Our students come to school hungry for whatever reason, and that's at every site, I know, and at every level. But if we could provide, and we do provide, the principal, teachers, we have food there for the kids to eat. But if there was a breakfast program, that'd be great, because often they're trying to leave the class, and they're missing instruction to go like get a snack or get food. Water filling stations, we realize that from the elementary to the high school, the other sites have water filling stations that everybody likes to carry their hydro flask in their bottle. And we have a drinking fountain outside in our quad. I don't think I've ever seen a student drink from it, I'm not sure why. We, an administrator a couple years ago purchased a refrigerator, and they are able to come in and get water out of there. The ice stopped working, so we get ice. We buy water bottles for them to, purchase water from the school. But those are a couple of the needs. We care about their whole well-being, and being nourished is an important factor there. With all these things, that we just talked about, and the trauma and the behaviors, and all the negative things that have impacted our students' lives, our kids are doing great. They're graduating. They're happy at our site. They show up broken, and research has said every 21 positive interactions with a student changes their mindset. So they get more than that. They get a lot more than that. Thank you for your time. Thanks, Anna.
Okay, I'll go quickly. So I'm Kristen Castro, I'm one of the counselors at the high school. I'm just gonna briefly touch upon our suicide prevention policy that we have had at the district since the school year 2017-18. It was mandated by the state that summer that that previous year that we had something in place by 17-18 school year. The policy needs to include prevention, intervention, and postvention. It is a work in progress, and it will always be a continual work in progress that we will have to continue to revisit. So prevention includes the policy implementation itself, education for students, parents, staff, websites and resources available to our district, as well as parents. The intervention piece is the referrals by teachers, staff, administrators. At that point, we do touch upon the risk assessment, which is an evaluation that we have visited each year amongst the counseling and psychologists, where we look at the questions that we need to ask the students to evaluate them and determine their risk, whether it's high, low, or moderate. And depending upon what that could be, a lot of times there is the call to a psychiatric mobile response team if there is any type of active plan or any thoughts of a specific plan. As mentioned earlier, that's a two-team approach. So that does take up quite a bit of time for our students, but you always want to make sure that they have someone with them at all times, or we're running back and forth making phone calls and all of that. And then also post with the intervention is if they are hospitalized or they are evaluated, is a return to school meeting with the team again to just make sure we're meeting their needs. And then postvention, is just if there were to be any type of suicide that was carried out, is developing a plan amongst each site and within the district of how to handle that in terms of media, supporting the families, supporting the other students. And so next steps for our suicide prevention policy, as we said, it's a work in progress, is we will continue to evaluate all the forms and the policy that we have in place. We also are putting together, we need to put together a suicide prevention task force, which will help review and analyze this on a yearly basis. Also, we are attending trainings in January, so there will be a team of us going to some additional trainings to continue our work with this. And then also training the staff yearly regarding the policy and procedures, and also working to develop a curriculum for our students, not only to deal with suicide prevention, but looking at resilience, anxiety, and wellness. And last year we were able to successfully do with all of our 9th grade, we did a resiliency lesson and activities in coordination with LINK, our LINK crew leaders and a couple of the counselors, to help them build up resiliency and understanding, and especially getting students to understand if you see something, say something. That is exactly, I think, what we have been able to implement, especially at the high school, is that we have a lot of students coming in. We have students emailing us sometimes over the weekend, letting us know they got a text, at which point we, if we happen to be checking our emails, we're, calling the sheriffs, doing risk assessments, and making sure that they have welfare enacted. So I think that's been the greatest thing is our students are now, because this topic has been something we continue to approach over the past couple of years, that our students are really coming forward in the wellness of others. And just lastly, so far this year at the high school, we have had, I think, 13 referrals or assessments already. Fortunately, not all of them have had to end up in hospitalizations, but at least parent notifications, parent meetings, and recommending for them to get some extra therapy, possibly outside of school. And that's where we would really like to see some of our services expanded, because a lot of those families do have insurance, and with our resource with Pacific Clinics, they can only take Medi-Cal or uninsured. So that's why hopefully we'll be able to extend that and branch out. Okay, thank you.
As we move forward, we're looking to create a student study team, SST process that's uniform throughout the district. What's happening is when our students are moving from elementary to Oak to the high school, sometimes we're not translating. So just making sure we're using a very uniform language so we're all on the same page. Continue that training for our staff, really getting them to understand and see, know that you don't always know what a child is facing. And then mental health support for all students, being able to reach all of our students regardless of insurance, crisis management support, and then really coming together at the very end with this district-wide multi-tiered systems of support, academic, behavioral, social, emotional, and being able to really be unified in how we do that. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you all very much. Excellent presentation.
I don't need any more candy. We just went through the Halloween.
Support that cause. They have gifts. We have gifts.
Picture, right? I'll do one for Raul.
Get one picture. Dr. Picker said she needs a picture. Yeah. He's going up there. He's the big cheerleader.
Everybody get one? For Monica? Oh! Thank you. Oh, we're going to want a picture. Jerry will want a picture. Give him a picture. Of all? Yeah. For what? For what? I feel like they're bringing their bodies.
That's why you're my favorite. You're one of my favorites.
Okay, but you already you said
Yes, you did. Would you like to hear your report?
The dog. The dog. I took a picture with the dog.
Would you like to hear my Would you like to hear my report?
Everybody got a wide angle lens?
Richard, I have a recorded message that says, Richard, look at
Here, I'll keep your head in.
All right, here we go. We're ready. Everybody smiling. Where's Ken and Getty?
Richard, you go on the other side.
No, this is the wellness team. I'm not part of that.
Oh my.
Sorry, low self-esteem. Childhood trauma. Childhood trauma. All right. Great, thank you. Great job, guys. Great job.
Well, I feel like this is deja vu. We're now back to the SOLA funding program and a presentation of Miriam Sorrell and Tamar Cataroyan.
Can I ask a question? Because I know we have the time limit of 10 and we're at 9:20. Is it possible for us to do the action items and then come back to the items or not?
We're going to wind up extending maybe in a minute, but
Can gonna jump in on part of the SELPA, and I know that this was a topic that we wanted to come before the board. So, first of all, the West San Gabriel Special Education Local Plan, or the West San Gabriel SELPA, is a program that provides support to regionalized programs. Regionalized programs are really programs that deal with students with highly specified needs, much larger than a particular school or school district can provide adequate educational services for. So, in many of these programs, we regionalize them to certain districts, and then we share students in throughout the 14 districts that feed into our West San Gabriel SELPA. The SELPA also provides professional development for administrators and special education teachers, aides, and they also provide support for all the federal mandates that we have to put in with regard to special education. The philosophy of the SELPA is really to provide the highest quality possible for all of our special education students and students throughout the programs, and support those regionalized standards, and then reevaluate those standards to make sure that we are meeting the goals that are outlined for those special education students. With regard to the program itself, there are 13 regionalized programs within the SELPA organization, and I'll get to those in a second. And there are 14 local districts that feed into the West San Gabriel SELPA. The regionalized districts we've outlined here, Alhambra has deaf and hard of hearing, the non-medical intellectual disabled students, autism. Arcadia also has a cluster of autistic students, emotional disturbance or goals program in the intermediate age, mild developmentally delayed, non-medical intellectual disability. Duarte does not currently have a SELPA regionalized program. El Monte City has autism pre-K through 8, mild developmentally delayed 4 through 8, orthopedically impaired K through 8, medically fragile, severe disability K through 8. El Monte Union has an emotional disturbance, or our goals program, 9 through 12. Medically fragile, 12 or above, and that would be our students who are in transition to age 22. Non-medically severe disabled, again, same age group, 12, beyond 12th grade. Garvey has severe disability in the pre-K, intensive needs in pre-K, and non-medical severe disability in ages K through 3. Mild developmentally delayed TK through 3. Monrovia services non-medical severe disability in TK through 12. Mountain View, non-medical severe disability in TK through 8, and mild developmentally delayed K through 8. Rosemead does not service a SELPA regionalized program. San Gabriel has intensive needs pre-K through 1. Mild developmentally delayed is K through 12, and non-medically severe disabled is 9 through 12. San Marino has intensive needs in pre-K. Mild developmentally delayed in 6 through 8, non-medically intellectually disabled or severely disabled in 6 through 12. South Pasadena, emotionally disturbance or goals program in 6 through 8. And then Temple City has emotionally disturbed or goals in K through 5 and visually impaired TK through 12. Valley Lindo has no regionalized programs at this time. Just to give you a little brief look into our hosted SELPA programs, we do have the elementary giving opportunities for achievement of lifelong skills, or our goals program, and that is housed at Longden Elementary School. It's focused into 2 different grade levels, or 2 different classrooms. One is K through 3 and one is 4 through 5. Those students are shared. We do receive students from other districts that go into this program, and then the students from this program would then go on to Arcadia South Pasadena's program after they leave us. We also host a visually impaired program. Prior to this year, it was a 6 through 12 program. This year we did receive the K through 5 program, so now we have the entire continuum of the visually impaired here and hosted at the 3 different school sites among our district. With regard to the staffing, with the regionalized program comes regionalized funding or funding sources that help support the programs on the school sites where they are currently residing. And this is just an outline of the teacher positions, instructional aides. They have adaptive PE, or they have an apportionment of an adaptive PE. or a speech language pathologist, school psychologist, counseling services administrator, and supplies that are needed to host and fund the programs. These are all funding sources that come to us, and then we have to provide the staff, and the staff would be Tcusd staff that actually service the students in these programs. With the VI program, it just outlines at Longden, Oak, and Temple City High School just the funding sources that come in to help support these individualized classrooms and the students that we serve, both our district students and students that come to us from other localized districts. For the California, or do you want to, is this you?
Sure. So Assembly Bill 602 is where the majority of funding for the SELPA comes from. There's a variance. It depends which group you had and how much funding you had prior to the enactment of AB 602. It basically kept funding similar. So it can be anywhere from $500 per ADA to $1,000, depending on what your funding was before. The AB 602 funding comes into the SELPA, so it's based on the ADA of the entire SELPA. So every district students that participate in these programs are together. In 1819, we received $2,952,000, and in 1920, we're expecting $3,011,000. Other funding that we receive for special ed, or excuse me, for the SELPA, we get a little bit from local assistance, federal preschool. Whether you have a preschool or don't have a preschool, you still receive funding. It's shared amongst the all the participants based on ADA, whether you have that program or you don't. We do receive about $64,000 in federal mental health. Pre-K we get a big $150. From the state we get $340,000 for mental health, and then the $2,952,000 is the AB 602. So for all of our students that participate in the SELPA, we get $4,386,000.
When you say all of our students, you mean the ones that are going to school here in Temple City, not our students that we send somewhere else?
So what actually happens is this wonderful little calculation is done at the end of the year, and that spreadsheet that, I'm gonna go back for just a second. This shows by program what the SELPA will fund. So that, pardon me, that classroom, say it has 15 kids in it, 12 kids in it. Some are district of residence, Temple City, so they live in our boundaries, and some are district of service. So they might actually live in Alhambra, but they're being serviced here because we house the program. So basically it's, the money is split. You take the total cost of that classroom, and it's divided by the number of students that are in there. And then if it's our student district of residence, we pay for them. We have some classrooms where almost everybody is from a different district, so then we send them a bill for their portion of the classroom, and then it's netted out at the end of the year. Some years we're positive, we're bringing in more money to the district than sending out. Depends what students are in which programs, and some years we owe more money to other districts. This year we were positive about $220,000 when we balanced out all the programs. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Who pays for the transportation now?
So all special ed students have transportation, and so that transportation, we all have a contract together with Hemet Unified. They have a separate busing terminal right here in El Monte, and so it's charged by district of residence. So this slide is actually explaining or detailing last year the payable. So for example, Alhambra on the first line, they owed $1,194,000, but they had a receivable of $2,007,000, so they were like $800,000 positive, and that just shows you for each group in the SELPA. Valle Lindo has no programs, and they don't send their kids out, so they don't really participate.
Sure, that's it.
Questions?
Yes, in terms of ESY, I think I saw one update where we received certain revenues for ESY and then expenses. Do we break even with ESY extended school year?
So special education doesn't break even anywhere, not even for ESY. We are negative, encroached about $5.2 million a year for special ed overall programs.
So these are all mandated by the state?
By the federal government primarily, and also by the state.
But they're mandated?
Yes, they are.
And so we defeat it out of general funds?
The general fund supports the programs that are mandated, yes.
So 5,200,000 for this year. Has that figure changed in the last 5 years?
It doesn't grow a lot. There's a calculation that's done as part of the first and second interim called the MOE, maintenance of effort. And what's required is every year you have to expend at least $1 more. So if you spent, $4 million last year, you have to at least spend $4 million more. The special ed staff and ed services working very hard to review programs and see where we can trim some of the expenses that we have. So last year we were about $200,000 less than the prior year. When that happens, I just have to explain why it's less. Maybe we have 2 or 3 less students in an NPS program, so I just have to explain to the county, Jim Jones left, he's out of the NPS, this is what his expense was last year. So we just have to detail that out for them, and then if we go less than the MOE, we're fine. But we have to explain that variance.
We also have a case-less integration with CalPATS this year.
Yes.
State reporting where the SELPA now has to sign off, not just Kim and Andy's in the audience. That's going to be, in terms of timeline, getting CalPATS certified. Because now we have a new dependency, which is the SELPA. They have to sign off. In addition, the HRS system integration and case-less. It's like, wow. And the BEST system is coming too. With a lot of
We're about
changes.
2 years out.
But with the case reporting, there is a lot of extra requirements that we have to do to make sure that those reports are up to date and accurate. And going through both organizations, we're looking at additional, help to get us through that training and then on to accurate reporting.
Any other comments or questions? I'm taking heed of Melissa's request a few minutes ago. We have 4 more discussion information items before we get to the action. Of those 4, are there any that couldn't wait until later or possibly the next meeting, or do we need to go through those? Yeah, so I'm talking about items 20, 21, 23, and 24.
20 and 21 we can push to the next meeting.
Okay.
23 and we can also push to the next meeting.
And 24 you want to talk about tonight?
It's not very long, just giving enough
Okay.
time for
All right, that's fine. So let's go now to item 24.
Thank you, Andy. I want to briefly talk about the classification study that we are kicking off. We are in approximately our 3rd week of the study. Basically, I wanted to cover tonight a little bit about the company, scope of work that's going to be done, the timeline, and the communication plan, just so we're all on the same page in terms of what's happening next. We will give updates periodically at board meetings, but this is our first one. So a little bit about the company. It's been around since 1985, recommended by FitMat, and presented well in terms of what did we need as a district, taking a look at all our job classifications, helping us to revise those job classifications, and providing an appeal process for all levels, executive cabinet and unions, when the final findings are made. Right now, our scope of work, we have 63 different classifications just for our classified 105 and 823, roughly 270 employees. They will cover class-specific revisions and allocation recommendations, and then time for appeals. The factors prompting this study, we haven't had one for several years. We just need an update in terms of most of our classifications, just to come in with new California Ed Code, just to make sure they're aligned to our board policies. Our goals of the study are to maximize the recruitment and retention efforts, and ensure our classifications are current, ensure positions and series are properly titled and grouped into job families like our clerk 1, 2, 3. Ensure individual employers are properly classified, make sure we're asking for the minimum and correct qualifications, and recommend a sound classification structure that will provide clear levels and career ladders as our contract asks for. Basically, just in summary, we have already started the process. They have all of our job descriptions, the number of our employees. We are now setting up the interview process and the orientation process, which is set for December 5th, where we talk to each employee about the process, their involvement, how we're getting feedback. And those feedback forms are called the PDQs. They're just basically interview forms on what their average tasks are for the day, what are they doing. The orientation is basically to let everyone know it's a fact gathering, just to take a look at what they're doing. Does it match their job description, and what they're doing outside their job description if that is happening. Basically, on December 5th, we'll give an orientation. The interview process is online, but we also offer a hard copy version. To increase responses, we will be working in groups of classification so people can work together to help each other through the survey process. I'm going to go to our timeline in a minute. The outcomes of the study, there will be either no changes to positions, a reclassification of positions, change in the titles to make it more updated, revision of class families, consolidation of classifications, and establishment of new classification. One or more of those can happen. And I'm going to go to the new timeline. Our dates, December 5th is when we meet with all employees. We'll have several meetings throughout the day so they can come in and check in, get their information, and be able to start the online survey. The first round of online surveys are due December 19th. Then our supervisors have a chance to complete interview forms, which is January 16th. We will have small focus groups from each group. That will happen the 6th and the 7th. March 5th, their study is complete, the revisions are done, and that will start the appeal phase, which we will meet with each union, go over all the recommendations that are made, gather input, bring that input back to you as a group, and see what we would like to keep, what we'd like to change. Our goal is to have the project completed by May 6th and have a board approval in May or June. We've already started communicating with the union. We're making an advisory committee from both sets. We met briefly today. Our next big meeting is set for December 5th, along with the orientation meeting. So we have a chance to meet with the CPS team and just outline our next steps. Emails, they do texting, they do just phone calls. They will do whatever they need to do to help us through this process. I know that was very quick. But again, we will provide updates as we have them for each board member and our board meeting, and I would like to open it up for questions.
Ken?
Is any of the employees going to be downgraded per se?
No, you should
So
not.
everybody, so there's a potential that a lot of people will, or some people will be elevated?
There might be. We're still at the beginning phases, so we are.
So we don't have an idea of what the cost factor is going to be?
No, not at this time.
Going to be paid out of what? If we wind up with a big cost factor?
We'll have to come back to you with that after the study is complete, so we can give you a good and complete answer.
Any other comments or questions? All right.
Any other comments? I will have more information as we get started. Right now, they have our job descriptions, they have our classifications, and step one is interviewing the employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so just to be clear, The remaining items under the information portion include item 20, school start time, item 21, data presentation, and item 23, HR software presentation that we are going to table until the next meeting. Because the information items, I don't think I need them. Better be safe. So I guess I'll ask for a motion to table those until our next meeting in December. The motion from member Nolenberg, the second from member Espinoza. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we tabled those, thank you. So with that, we are on to the discussion action portion of our agenda, item 25. That calls for a motion to discuss an action regarding proposal to share the Mission Playhouse rental, and Matt Byers asked to speak about this.
All in favor? Justin.
Turn it on.
Oh. I've never used one of these before. First of all, I do want to publicly thank the Tcusd Schools Foundation for not only this year's offer of support, but the last several years have been very kind in helping to offset some of the costs and whatnot for all of the productions that we do at the high school, specifically the holiday concert, dance concert, and the musical. And then of course their offer to split, to make a donation toward the cost of the auditorium this year. And also thanks to Dr. Fricker and Marianne for championing this and seeing to figure out a way to work this through, and all the support that you folks, we know we're all working for the same thing and just getting it done, which is why Elias is here, Elias Borgiley, who is our San Gabriel Mission Playhouse auditorium manager, here to answer questions and help to see things through. Just quickly, we've been in the Mission Playhouse since 1965, and with productions, and obviously as the productions, the musicals, the sets and costumes and music, everything stays the same, basically the same. It's the same procedure, but the cost of facilities and whatnot that has gotten so high has caused such a drive, so much time put into just fundraise, just to have give the kids the opportunity. And so the support from the district and from the various organizations like the Schools Foundation is very, very important. And this being my 34 years of doing these musicals, 4 years in addition to that performing in the musicals, there's an awful lot of, talking about the importance of these programs. We're all on the same page with all of that. And so I do want to just make clear, this really isn't a discussion about building an auditorium or even future how we're going to fund things. We're just talking about this year, and I know we're going to end it, continue discussions later this year, get a committee together and discuss how we do this in the future with the support from outside organizations or specifically within the district budget. And we can talk, I'd be glad to talk about all that at another time. But if we can tonight, especially since we have a little bit of a timeline with the holiday concert just around the corner, we'd like to get things ratified as soon as possible. And so at that point, I'm going to sit down here and let y'all discuss it and share your things, and then we're here to answer some questions and see what we can do to help see this through. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. And before we go any further, I did not ask for a motion in a second, so I'm going to ask for a motion in a second this time.
Discussion of this?
Yes.
Motion.
Motion what?
To discuss.
Oh.
Discuss a proposal for this year use of the Mission Playhouse.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so the motion from Member Espinoza and a second from Member Georgino. And now we will get into the discussion. What can you tell us about what you found out in the last 2 weeks?
Well, I found out a bit, but not as much as I would hope to have found out. I can kind of give you the information just from internal conversations I've had, facts and figures, and then the meeting with the foundation. So just to recap and review, these are the past 5 years of expenditures for the holiday and the dance and holiday concert, the dance, and the musical at the Mission Playhouse. Last year, just want to clarify the foundation's point of view, had a meeting with them last night. They don't want to give you any money, so case closed on that. They don't want to receive any money from us, so that's perfect, because we don't have a mechanism to give it to them. The original request was to contribute half. They currently, I have not seen that, but in years past have contributed fundraising efforts to the Mission Playhouse or the costs associated with the Mission Playhouse. And their proposal was to contribute half and the district to contribute half. I explained to them last night that we don't have a mechanism to contribute half, and if they don't want it to go to them, which we can't give anyway, I asked who do we give it to or how would we pay for that. So the issue of the contract came back up. Temple City Schools Foundation is an independent organization from Temple City Unified School District. They can donate funds, I've explained that to them, in any amount, increments, in any way, shape, or form to the booster clubs and or to the performing arts programs. And they don't govern the performing arts program, and we don't govern, or I'm not even a voting member on the foundation, so however they would want to apportion money, they can do that however they so choose. This was a slide from the last meeting where we discussed the courses associated with the performing arts program in total. Some of these classes, many of these classes then contribute students who then participate in either the holiday concert, the dance performance, or the musical itself. All of those courses end up to be around 15 sections. Usually a section has funds attached to it. A section normally translates to a course. In some cases, you'll see that there are 2 teachers assigned to a course, so that would be 2 sections of funding that would attribute to that. And it would be a cost estimate approximation of around $300,000 for all of those courses that we currently offer. Extra pay or extra duty assignments that are attributed to the following program director, technician, choreographer, producer, technical director. Some is around $13,000. To sponsor and coordinate efforts for our elementary intermediate performing arts program, that is about $186,000. The high school athletic course program, it came up in the foundation last night that there's an equivalent, or there is a perception that a lot of funds, district funds, is attributed to our athletic program in comparability. And so I just bring that forth tonight just as a comparable note. The same, we've measured out the courses that are aligned with a section allocation that has funding attached to it, aligned to our athletics program, and it averages around, or the approximate cost. It varies a little bit from the staff members, but the approximate cost is about $120,000. Athletic coach stipends, these are, they were established in a unified fashion or an agreed amount. And according to our calculations with the athletic director, and both at the high school and then a part-time athletic director at the intermediate school, head coaches and assistant coaches, it's about $255,000. The cost comparative between the two is not that far off. We do contribute additional monies to athletics for safety out of the district's budget. And then we do provide substitutes for the Friday preview for students to go over to the San Gabriel mission and attend the performance. The Mission Playhouse contract. So the contract, whoever leases the contract would go into a hold harmless agreement with the city of San Gabriel to rent the facility. You would incur all losses, damages, claims against, whether it's on their property and adjacent properties or on the facility itself, or from any person or persons who would be injured or could be injured in either the production and or the attendees who attend the performances. The only exemption clause would be if there was willful misconduct or gross negligence on the part of the city of San Gabriel, and that would release us from any binding obligation. Tcusd as the leasee of the Mission Playhouse contract, you would have two options to lease the facility. There's 3 separate contracts, one for the holiday concert, one for the dance performance, and one for the musical. Or you could have one joint contract with all 3 of the performances in one, either way. It would have to go through the contract approval process, and it would have to go through the risk assessors at the JPA. And then the ASB funding would have to cover the cost until we have a budget alteration, or because no budget alteration has been made to date, so that would still have to happen.
What does that mean?
So we already have an approved budget from July for this fiscal year, so you would have to make the alteration to apportion the funds to pay the contract cost. You could have one contract at a time. So the holiday concert is the concert that is the pressing issue, as it is a month away. I think it's December 17th, the performance. And usually ticket sales go on a month in advance, from what I'm told. So you could take it contract by contract, the holiday contract being the first. Again, the activity risk assessment would have to go through our JPA, and then the ASB funding would have to provide the support until a budget alteration or adjustment can be made. Foundations, booster clubs can also be lessees of the Mission Playhouse contract. Again, they could have 3 separate contracts and enter into contract with the Mission Playhouse, or they could have one joint contract. And then they would go through their own contract approval process, and then they'd be funded by that foundation or that booster group. They could take it contract by contract, the holiday contract again being the one that is the most of most concern. And then again, they would go through the same process to approve it within their organization. In talking to Ms. Verntal last night at the foundation meeting, this isn't on the slide, I guess there is, before it was noted that the contracts, and you can help me because I'm out of my depth, but the contracts came with Ticketmaster, who would reimburse for the contract as the ticket sales were sold, but that, I'm told last night, was separated so that the sales would not go to the leasee of the contractor, the contract any longer. The ticket sales would not go to the leasee of the contract any longer. Go ahead.
All right. So when we distribute funds from Ticketmaster for an event that's held at the Mission Playhouse, we can either pay off the debt that's owed to the Mission Playhouse by fulfilling the payment for the contract, or we can return it as a separate check to whoever is the signing agency of the contract. So it can either be made out to Temple City Unified School District or to Temple City High School. Does that make sense?
So whoever is leasing the contract, the check is made out to the
Correct.
person
So
who's
if Temple City Unified School District signed the contract, the funds would be dispersed back to Temple City Unified School District. If the foundation was the one that signed the contract, then the funds would be distributed back to the school foundation.
Thank you for that clarification. So options to consider, with any competitive quote process, we normally pull 3. That's just a standard of practice. It's not a mandate in any way for a contract of this size. The 3 options to consider would be possibly for Arcadia, Baldwin Park, or the Mission Playhouse. There is a long established history at the Mission Playhouse to host the 3 events. Again, just a review of last time, district-sponsored activities versus school-connected organization activities. Ours is, the requirements that school districts are held liable to are much more stringent, than school-connected organization activities. So we do have to have certain supervisions and oversight governance of those things that we enter into contract with and or consider as district or school-sponsored activities within TCUSD. So that's just a review of the slides that we had last presentation, and that's all of my presentation.
Comments or questions, Dr. Fletcher? Ken?
I didn't hear anything about whether they made a profit, whether anybody made a profit on any of the 3 projects.
We did reach out to, as last time it was indicated that we should reach out to the booster clubs or foundations or organizations that support the performing arts for their financial information, and we do not have their financial information.
I'm not sure what the question was, in terms of the school making money by selling tickets, or, because that doesn't involve any of the booster groups. Are you talking about so like with the Christmas concert, it breaks even, or it makes money, or it loses money? Is that the question? Or the dance concert, or?
Yeah, each one of the performances, does it make money or not? Or do we pay anybody's salary out of it, so that there is no profit in a sense? Do we pay people?
There is a history of, and I know Marianne has gone over it with Christy, but there is a history of some of the productions that have lost money, some of the productions that have made money. Every production has a startup cost, and so within the ASB, there would be money already in account to start by, when we say, okay, we're going to do Newsies, and we send in a license agreement and agree to pay for royalties, and royalties are around $10,000 or something like that. We've got startup money in our musical ASB account that we can then, start the process. And then, of course, our relationship with the Mission Playhouse, specifically, we have a nice arrangement where they do not bill us up front. They wait till we sell tickets and everything, and then pay the bill, that kind of thing. So,
do we employ anybody? Does any of the presentations or the productions employ staff from Temple City Union?
The school district covers some of the staff, district budget, right? In terms of stipends that have been approved every September.
That's it? Yeah. That's it?
And then other staff, customers and things like that have often been covered by a donation from like the school's foundation or the performing arts boosters. One of the boosters groups making a donation to the activities office that has paid some of those support. There have been some that I think have been the district has paid and then has billed ASB, and ASB has paid back the district for there's about 11 to 15 people involved in the production that receive a small stipend or a district approved stipend from the beginning of the year. But can I just ask one more question? Just to be clear, the school's foundation isn't asking or interested in paying for the rental of the 3 concerts. Yeah. Well, somebody pays the piper. So anyway, I don't know that that's necessarily an option. Because if they're offering to cover half of the cost of the 3, so if we say, well, they can sign the contract and they can pay it, and therefore they can pay $50,000, but then their offer was to cover half the cost, make a donation to the district to cover half of the cost, not the entire cost, and obviously, as has been said, the district cannot make a donation to the school's foundation so that they can, so that 50-50 scenario exists. So I don't know that that's even something on the table. Does Is that
Yeah.
clear? I don't want to muddy anything.
Yeah,
I just wanted to stay focused on what I feel like we need to make a decision and take an action about what we're doing for this year only with regard to the Mission Playhouse. I motion to have the district.
we're not there yet, no.
Okay, because we need to get to that point to make a decision. Yeah, I cannot make a motion.
We have a motion and a second on the table right now.
Okay, well.
That's just to discuss.
Yeah.
That was just to discuss it.
Well, so that's what we're doing. Because
Right.
I don't know how to say this other than to say it. I want very badly for us to be able to support the productions that occur there. I really do. I still, I'm sorry people don't want to hear about Mike Palmer anymore, but his 3 criteria, the first one is illegal. The only way I can see that it's legal based upon what I'm hearing is if the district assumes responsibility for managing all aspects of it, right?
All aspects or just the rental aspect?
All aspects.
Why was that? I don't understand.
Because
why
then you've
that's
got a
criteria.
boat without a crew. I don't know how, that's just one piece part of it. And that becomes, because the program isn't a district program, correct me if I'm wrong, because the program in that case wouldn't be a district program, then the district would be donating the rental of the Mission Playhouse to the Performing Arts Group. Am I right or wrong?
You are right. So if we are, normally the organizations stay very separate. So school-connected organizations and the district, although we are connected, we work together, we work in partnership on a lot of things, funds remain separate.
Sure.
Activities remain separate. So for example, if Grad Night, who was here, wanted to come on, rent our facility and host Grad Night for the students, we as a district, not that we don't want to get involved with the Grad Night and we're not appreciative of all the volunteers, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours putting into that, but the minute we conflate, we have ownership and we have liability and we have responsibility to make sure that the safety and the governance structures of whatever that organization is and what they're doing is put in place. So that's why for Grad Night, again, no disrespect to Grad Night, but they put on that whole entire performance as a group of parents and volunteers, and administration doesn't even go and govern and oversee it, right? So
Right.
it is completely self-contained, separate entity. When we start conflating things, funds, people, time, resources, that's where we muddy the waters, so to speak. And
But
so
is that what we're talking about, or are we talking about, because the Schools Foundation this year has made a one-time offer to partner with Tcusd, aren't we just talking about a one-time, I know it wasn't in the budget, so this is an added thing that has to have an addendum budget or something like that. But similar to when the district has, supported like the drum line going to Ohio, that because they fell a little short or something, and the district came and supported that one-time thing, that wasn't something that the board has put into the yearly budget type thing. And so I think this is just a one-time, this isn't a binding thing between either the Schools Foundation or the district, as much as the foundation has made an offer, and I guess what we're saying is the district willing to cover the cost of the auditorium, 3 concerts, $50,000, and then, it's really nice that the Schools Foundation is making a donation to help offset that. I'm not sure that there needs to be a mechanism in place that this is kind of a one-time thing. And then, after this year, I'd love to sit down and see how we can do it every year. But that's the producer asking for something down the road.
Real quickly, I'm sorry this is kind of a tangent, but this is something came up in the last meeting. We have in our bylaws, it requires us to adjourn the meeting at 10 o'clock unless we ask for a motion to extend the meeting time for X amount of minutes. and when that X expires, we can extend it no further. So I'm gonna ask for a procedural motion on extending the meeting. Somebody wants to make a motion in a second.
I'll make the motion, we extend it for an hour, and hopefully we end earlier.
Okay, so we have a motion from Member Georgino and a second from Member Espinoza to extend the meeting for an hour. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, that carries 5-0, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Excuse us, Mary, board member? Yes, that's what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're welcome to leave if you need to leave.
We don't want you to be sleep deprived tomorrow.
So I'm gonna attempt to answer the question you just asked.
Okay.
If we can't do it one time, if we can't find a legal way to do it, doesn't matter whether it's one time or a commitment for the next 10 years, we still can't do it.
Okay, so I think I just want to make sure that we understand that all we're talking about is you've looked into, since our last meeting, you've looked into the Mission Playhouse contract, and there is a way in which the district could take that contract. There's not anything in the contract that is not legal per ed code that would not allow us to have that contract. Right?
There's nothing within the contract, and we have run through the contract.
Okay.
In fact, I have it here. If you want a copy, I have it here. There's nothing in the contract that is illegal, obviously. You
Or
wouldn't pass
against
out a
ed code.
contract if it would be.
Against ed code.
But you, the board, would have to assume all liability for anything that happens during any of those performances for any of those people.
Totally get that. So
And
what
then-
we're saying is that slide that has the 2 columns that you brought up is if we look at that list and the people running the program say, yeah, I mean, we can run the program to those specifications, then what is preventing us from being able to enter into that contract? I'm just asking, I don't know.
I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
Matt, do you have a?
Well, I'm not, so what she's saying is if we rent the facility and there are parties there who are doing work not funded by the district and they burn the place down, we're the ones who are liable for that.
Yes, I understand.
I mean, that is a huge risk.
There, you're talking about like the auditorium staff,
Well,
because those would be the only other people, other than our
whoever might be
staff.
operating in there, somebody's smoking a cigarette, I know you can't do that anymore.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, the only people that would be, correct me if I'm wrong.
Or breaks a leg
For dance, Christmas, and musical, when we, the contracts will state the number of days and hours that we are there, and that's what we are responsible for, and it's our staff, our kids, our
When you say
volunteers.
we, which we are you talking about?
The Temple City High School staff, the parent support group, the students, everybody that's there. And then the auditorium support staff, the stage manager, the professional fly rail people and all that. Those are the only people that are there. There aren't like another outside group wouldn't be in the auditorium while we are there, for example. So it'd be like if we're at the swim stadium and the parents are there and the kids and the coaches and all that. That's just our people.
And don't we have insurance for that? Don't we have insurance that covers us for different activities that may not even be on campus? Like when our kids go play football at another school or, things like that?
Yes, we do have insurance, and you would have to have a certain amount of insurance to enter into a contract of that nature. I'm sure that there are, we have standards and requirements for insurance to enter into a facility use with us.
Right.
So yes, we do have insurance for that. And then we would also have to run through the activities that you're doing in the productions through our JPA. Some would be approved activities, some would not, so you may have to alter your